Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll see what happens. We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I am a dissident.
Don't move. Move.
I'm saying no while you hear Palantir, 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 Palantir. It's not going to be stopped.
Seriously, we need to release the F-scene list.
Turns off.
I am not a church boy.
Turns off.
They're full-on vampires.
They hate our beef. They hate our beef. They hate our beef because our beef is beautiful and theirs is weak.
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome one and all to a Thursday midday edition of the New Dissidents podcast. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dobular, of course. Hey, you're muted. There you go. Gotta take that mute off.
Hello.
So, Russell, where are you?
Saigon. I'm still only in Saigon.
Still.
I got a lot of people talking about going back to the world. I don't know how to tell them. It just doesn't exist anymore.
There you go. Round of applause for Russell Dobular there. Too bad the Oscars were last week. Could have gotten a last-minute nomination for that.
I could have gotten one. I mean, I can't really do it without the Doors playing.
Yeah, that does help a lot.
I really need the Doors in there. Yeah,
that does help a lot. Well, thank you, everybody. I just want to say at the outset, we'll talk a little bit more about this as the show goes on, of course, but I want to thank everybody for their well wishes. We got almost 4,000 comments on the YouTube video, another few hundred on Rumble. I've been hearing from people DMing and texting regarding the passing of my mother. Is very moving. So thank you all very much for your support. You guys are the best. And it's great to be here with everybody today. I would have done Afro Man today. I wanted to do Afro Man, but Russell was a good friend. He's like, no, you're not allowed to work today. You don't prep. You just show up. I'll do it. And so I just want to say, you know, Afro Man is a great American hero. So we have two heroes have arisen this week, Joe Kent and Afro Man. And of course, our guest of the day, who is the host of the Katie Halper Show, and she is taking flight as part of the Cuba Convoy, a humanitarian flotilla set to deliver tons of much-needed aid to the island this week. Please give it up for Katie Halper. Katie, great to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Well,
thanks so much for being here.
How are things there in Miami?
Okay. I you know, it's interesting, Miami. I keep whispering whenever I'm around anyone about where I'm going this week, because I don't want anyone to hear that I'm going to Cuba, so I don't get like physically assaulted. You know,
don't bring measles to Cuba. You got to be careful. You know, if you ever spend too much time in Miami, don't bring measles to Cuba. They got measles down there, right? Yeah, that would be great. That'd be a great thing. You go there to help out, you end up starting a measles epidemic. So
you could be like the human smallpox blanket of Cuba.
Exactly. Yeah, that has been my nickname in the past, ironically. But I spoke to someone yesterday. I'm always trying to find like a reasonable voice. I was speaking to this woman who's from Venezuela. She's been living in Colombia for 8 years. And I was asking her what she thought of what Trump had done to Maduro. And she was like, oh, I think it's like genial, like, you know, wonderful. And I was like, oh, really? Because I know that there's some people who don't like Maduro, but they still don't like what Trump did. She's like, no, I don't think so. She's probably right. I always fantasize about there being more reasonable opposition. I mean, I have met people who like that when it comes to, you know, Iran, for instance.
Right.
But and some when it comes to Cuba. I haven't met any when it comes to Venezuela. But yeah.
Interesting. So. Wow. Yeah, that is. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was talking to a Vietnamese woman who was here visiting who actually lives in Florida.
Mm.
And I, I said, I didn't know she lived in Florida. I thought she lived here, but I just said, look, I haven't been to conflict zones. I haven't been to places that are in the middle of a civil war or famine. But with that proviso, America's the biggest shithole I've ever been to. I've never been to a place as bad as the United States. Within the parameter, I've only been to places with like functioning states and governments. But within that, America's the worst place I've ever been. And she was like, oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Not even a hesitation. Honestly, I haven't had anybody contradict me on that at all. I mean, not that, it's, what I talk about with everybody, but I haven't had anybody say, no, what do you mean?
Right.
What do you mean? Actually, no, I shouldn't say that.
It's not your icebreaker?
That's my opener. I had a guy in Thailand who, it's weird over here because you do get some people who still have the America thing, who still have like the American dream thing. So I have had some people who like still think it must be great there. Because I asked somebody, brought it up. I asked a guy in Thailand, like, why do you guys have KFC here? Like, you have great food of your own. Why would you have KFC? Like, why would you have McDonald's? Why would you have Starbucks? That in Vietnam, why would you have Starbucks? This is one of the great coffee cultures of the world. Why would you have Starbucks? Their own coffee is much better than Starbucks, which I know it's a low standard, but they have really great coffee. And he said it's the brand. He said it's the America thing. It's the brand. That's why.
What's funny is, speaking of Cuba and Miami, I actually told this story on my show the other night. So apologies / thank you if you watch my show, because it's a little repeat, but I'll be more efficient about it.
A lot of our folks do.
Oh, great. Well, I had on David Alvarez, who works at the embassy in Washington, D.C. He's Cuban. He's a diplomat. And I had on Danny Valdez, who's with Cuban Americans for Cuba. He's going down with us to Cuba with that convoy. He's part of the Cuban American delegation. I'm part of the media delegation. But I told him the story about how when I was in Miami years ago, I was at Domino Park, where there are all these, Miami American, Cuban Americans. And there was a guy talking about how this guy, just to give you a sense of his politics, he was praising Pinochet and he was praising Franco. And so, not exactly a supporter of Cuba. But he was telling me, he mentioned that he visits his daughter. He goes to Cuba to visit his daughter. And it was like all of a sudden totally silent for about 5 seconds maybe. And then everyone started yelling at him because they think he's a traitor. This guy who was a Pinochet fan is a traitor because he dares to go and see his own daughter. He sets foot in the evil country and helps, at this point Castro was in power, but I guess he's, helping Castro by going to that country. But it was insane. Like that was the political spectrum in that particular area. Now we all know that that actually, it's, as is the case in many examples, but the Cuban American voice that is very anti-Castro is actually kind of the very loud, very well funded, very well connected minority probably at this point. I mean, you see a lot, there's a big generational shift, a lot of comparisons to what it's like with, younger Jews versus older Jews. And you have the Cuba lobby, you have the Israel lobby, but it's not really representative of most people, especially the younger ones. But then what's interesting also is that I worked on this documentary with this great filmmaker, Estela Bravo, who's actually Estella Siegel, by the way. She's from Brooklyn. She went to my secular Jewish socialist summer camp. She worked there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I can't remember Brooklyn or the Bronx, one of those, but she married an amazing Argentine guy named Ernesto Bravo, who was tortured under Perón. And in fact, apparently the first protest that Che went to was to free Ernesto Bravo, who had been tortured by Perón because he was part of the Young Communist group. They moved to Argentina, which is where he's from. Then they moved to Havana. She became an amazing filmmaker. She made a great film about Paul Robeson. She made one about Fidel Castro. She made, so many, Operation Peter Pan. But I worked on this documentary with her called Free to Fly, the U.S.-Cuba Link. And what was amazing is that we interviewed, you remember Larry Craig, the toe tapper? The guy who was entrapped for trying to, so he was
the spreader.
Yeah, the toe tapper. It's like a code. I mean, I feel he's terrible and he's homophobic, in the way he legislates and votes, but he's closeted, and he got busted in a men's bathroom in an airport doing a toe tap move, which, to be fair, it's not not predatory, because if you don't know the code, you don't.
I understand he had just been watching Singing in the Rain, though. Wasn't that what he was trying to?
Yeah. I mean, Gene Kelly would turn anyone, honestly, but I certainly had a crush on him as a little kid, and I still do. But he was like, when we interviewed him, because we interviewed people on the right who were against the embargo also, and he was like, the blockade, and he was like, I want to bombard them with Sears and Roebuck's catalogs. And, people who had been involved in the Bay of Pigs were against the embargo because they, for their own reasons, want capitalism to go there, or they just have people like that very humane Pinochet supporter who wanted to see his daughter. So it's interesting that, it's obviously this policy is totally irrational. Even some people on the right see that.
And I mean, frankly, if they had not done it, I would imagine that the communist government probably would have fallen.
I think
because capitalism was at its peak. It was having its best PR during those years, the 60s, 70s, not so great, but then you had the 80s, the 90s. If they had no embargo, just open trade with Cuba, you have a much better chance that government would have fallen than this way, by completely cutting it off economically and removing it from that influence and that cross-cultural exchange.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
So let's take a look at what you have gotten yourself into here, Katie. So this is from Drop Site. So this is the Nuestra America Flotilla. So this is going to be an international coalition of activists, trade unionists, humanitarian groups. So who's organizing this? Who's going on this? What's the mission?
Yeah, so it's a convoy, and everyone's flying unless there's been some changes. But I think what happened was there were so many people who want to go, and you can take flights that are humanitarian in nature. So a bunch of us are flying from many different countries, Latin America, Europe, the United States. I'm going, Chris Smalls is going, Stephen Donziger, Jeremy Corbyn, Kneecap, and it's organized by Progressive International and by Code Pink. So obviously Medea Benjamin is going, the great Medea Benjamin, Jody Evans, the great women of Code Pink. And we're going to be delivering a lot of medical aid, much needed medical aid, medical equipment, medicines, but also, going to be in solidarity with the people of Cuba and showing the world that this is a place that deserves our solidarity. I mean, we deserve it as well. This is one of the other things, is that, the sanctions don't just harm the Cuban people, which they obviously do. They harm other countries, because now people are kicking out the doctors, under U.S. bullying pressure. All these doctors that Cuba exports and sends to literally save people's lives or treat them. But it is life-saving treatment often. I mean, a big thing that they do is reverse blindness in certain African countries where it's basically non-existent now, because it's a very treatable blindness, this particular disease that they basically eradicated. But they also have these amazing discoveries that they've made that we in the West could be benefiting from. And Belly of the Beast, which is this independent media organization that is makes great documentaries and kind of, reportajes, reports. They did something about this. Liz.
That's right. You speak Spanish, right, Katie?
Yeah. Although Cuban Spanish is pretty hard to understand, but I do speak it. Yeah. But they interviewed a Republican, a doctor who's a Republican, who's upset that he has to fly to Cuba, that he has to go to Cuba. He can't just order this medication. They've discovered some amazing treatment for Alzheimer's, which is not comparable to anything that they've discovered here. They also developed a lung cancer vaccine. They also have amazing treatment for healing wounds, which can lower amputation rates. They discovered the meningitis vaccine years and years ago, and
they actually developed. Sorry to cut you off, but they actually developed a COVID vaccine that's very, very novel. It's the kind that actually stops you from getting COVID. Apparently, yeah. So they're on the cutting edge of all kinds of stuff down there. Yeah,
and it really is the perfect metaphor for how the draconian treatment of Cuba actually hurts us all. I mean, it sounds corny and it sounds like just a slogan, but when you're talking about a country that has managed to make these amazing medical discoveries, I mean, we are being deprived of it. And any people who know or have loved ones or relatives who have Alzheimer's, I mean, how devastating that is. And the idea that there are people who could have been saved or had it, mitigated, it's really a disgusting thing to think of, that because Donald Trump basically wants to violate. I mean, you heard his language, right? When he talked about taking Cuba, Danny Valdez, who I had on my show, said it reminded him. He said something. He said, the pedophilia is really showing through, is what he said about the way he talked about it.
Exactly.
Well, you know what? I actually have that, so let me throw that up.
Oh, not Danny.
And everything else. It's a beautiful weather. They're not in a hurricane zone, which is nice for a change. They won't be asking us for money for hurricanes every week. But I think Cuba's the end. All my life I've been hearing about the United States and Cuba. When will the United States do it? I do believe I'll be having the honor of taking Cuba. That'd be good. That's a big honor. Taking Cuba in some form, yeah. Taking Cuba. I mean, whether I free it, take it, I think I could do anything I want with it. You want to know the truth? They're
I can stick it wherever I want it.
Nation right now. They were for a long time. Very violent leaders. Castro was a very violent leader.
They were violent.
Leader. Extremely violent.
Yeah. How many
That's
times
how they governed.
did they try to kill him?
Violence. But a lot of people would like to go back. Okay.
Yeah, even the mob could get to him. They were partnered with the mob trying to take out Castro. Now you said this
about it. They tried to go with his scuba diving suit, cigar.
Well, they tried to do it. They tried to do an exploding cigar. Yeah. Now you sent this over before the show. All right, so the percentage of the population in the U.S. who believes we should use force to remove the Cuban government is 7%. 7%.
And that's
among
with
Biden-Harris voters, 4%. Swing voters, 8%. Trump voters, 8%. 2024 non-voters, 6%.
Wow.
But hey, what difference does that make? We're just the peasants. We don't actually have a say in the government.
Well, what's incredible about that also is how low it is given how vilified Cuba is, right? I mean, you can imagine if we had a more responsible media and less pathologically lying psychopathic president, politicians in general. I want to credit, I mean, most politicians from both parties are pretty bad on this, with some exceptions. Certainly the Republicans and the Florida ones are pretty, I mean, especially sadistic. But imagine how low those numbers would be if we had a responsible media or political elite that wasn't talking about it, like basically run by Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah. So what are the legal fine points of what you're doing? Because, obviously with the flotillas into Israel, they were really taking their lives in their hands because Israel did not recognize their legal right to even be there, at which point, given the nature of the Zionist state, it was always, I mean, we were always worried we were going to read one day that they blew them out of the water. But it doesn't seem to be a similar situation here.
Well, no, I mean, Cuba would never do that, right? Because that's another important reminder.
Well, Cuba's obviously not going to do that. I mean, us. Like, you're not breaking the law doing that.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, this is humanitarian. We're legally covered. I mean, there's not this is not one of those things where people are like, okay, you make sure you're willing to get arrested. Here's what you do when you get arrested. There's none of that discussion. I mean, partly maybe we're lucky because thank God for small favors. You know, the empire is expanding in so many other areas. They're probably too busy to try to kill its own citizens. Not that I put it past them morally, but I think logistically, it's probably, I think they're kind of overextended. But, you know, Code Pink has been organizing for so long. They're very knowledgeable about this stuff.
Right.
They work, you know, they work with the
Well,
national.
yeah, I mean, you're allowed to fly out of Florida. I didn't even realize that. I thought you had to like go to Canada.
I thought you had to go. I
down.
thought that too.
But no, you're allowed to fly from the United States if it's for humanitarian purposes, I guess, right?
Yeah.
All right. You just have to give, you know, Peter Thiel your biometric data so they can keep track of you, and then I guess you get to go. Yeah.
So hang on. So, but there are no regular flights, right? There's a charter flight.
American Airlines has flights.
Really?
Yeah.
But are there that many people going out of Florida who fit that qualification of being humanitarian?
I guess there are.
Russell's like, yeah, you know, I wanted a communist vacation. I could have just gone to Cuba. What am I all the way the hell out?
I could have gone to Cuba. What am I doing in Vietnam?
Yeah, exactly.
So, Katie, let me ask you. I know your time's limited. You're on vacation, and you're about to go on not a vacation, a humanitarian mission. Being here definitely, you know, over time, I think the more you learn, the more radicalized you get if you're really learning and you're really educating yourself about the role that not just America, that Western countries have played in the world. I mean, the more you learn about it, the more you unlearn everything you thought you knew about it over time. You know, I've been down in the Viet Cong tunnels here. I just went to the War Remnants Museum where they have photographs that we really don't see, man. We really don't see. Like, even though they'll show photos of atrocities in Vietnam, we don't really see those photos of the soldiers literally smiling with human heads, like as savage as anything that you could imagine. And so much of what we've accused communists of and unfriendly governments of is a confession. Like, we've done all of the things we've claimed other people have done. Do you, at this point, do you see America as the bad guy of history? Like, has your perspective gone towards we've been the villains in the story?
I mean, yeah, starting at age like 6.
Yeah. Boom. Boom.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even being like, I mean, I was raised in that with that thinking. I mean, we have a family friend, Dennis Mora, who was part of the Fort Hood 3. So those are the first 3 guys who got arrested for refusing to fight in the illegal, unjust, and immoral war that was the Vietnam War. They were not conscientious objectors. They like very specifically decided not to do that. It was a you know, very kind of organized campaign. There were 3 of them. One was Latinx. Dennis is Puerto Rican and Spanish. David was white. JJ is black. You know, so it was a very like, you know, professionally done mission. They were actually technically they could have been received the death sentence because they were, I guess, doing this during a time of war. But I was raised, yeah. I mean, there's no. I remember I ran into someone. This is so funny. I was like 7 years old, and we ran into these people. I hadn't met them, and my mom knew them for like decades. And she's like, "Oh yeah, this is Marvin and B." I was like, "Oh, hi, nice to meet you." And then, you know, we ran into them on the street, and then we walked away. And I said to my mom, "So they think the Rosenbergs were innocent, right?" Which was like my code for like being a good person.
Right.
Yeah. They weren't, though, as it turned out.
Well, okay, I was 7. I did not understand the nuances. We didn't have all the evidence, but basically, they would have been opposed to executing the Rosenbergs, right? That's, you know, that was.
Right.
I'm just giving you an example.
Well, there you go. Okay, but I think even for a lot of people on the left or liberals, classically, I mean, this is stuff Caleb Maupin gets into a lot. The recently deceased Michael Parenti talked about this a lot. The way that they subverted left movements and made them kind of absorb the idea that, in the end, we have the best system. We just have to improve it. Like there was that. And I think the basic premise that World War II, we were the good guys unquestionably. And after World War II, things went wrong. We got corrupted. I think that's a very common perspective on the left. The idea that we've always been the bad guy. Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Right. I mean, I would say that regardless of our motives in World War II, that was certainly the last time we were on the right side was World War II. Right. In other words, I think everything since then has been on the wrong side. But yes, I do think that there's a lot of, it was Vietnam was full of blunders and mistakes, and that was unnecessary maybe, and we just didn't know what we were doing. I mean, that you definitely have
hindsight is 2020.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Now that's ridiculous because it's not just about, not doing it effectively or not doing it well. Or today you have the argument that like we shouldn't be doing this in Iran or Venezuela because it just doesn't work. Right. Like there's no talk from our politicians of sovereignty, independence, rank hypocrisy. So, yeah, I do a lot. This is not original, but a lot of people are saying that this is a totally mask off moment. Right. They're not even pretending in some cases that this is about bringing democracy. I mean, Trump talks about oil explicitly, taking Cuba. And I mean, it's just such a shit show. Their talking points are all over the place. Marco Rubio himself, right? Oh, we did this because of Israel. Then Trump, no, actually, we forced their hand. Then Rubio, why'd you say it was Israel? Oh, I didn't say it was Israel.
Right.
It wasn't Israel. Right. So, I mean, I think this is probably not popular among a lot of our viewers, but I think we're doing this for Israel is actually an oversimplification, and it exonerates the West. It makes it seem like, but for Israel, we wouldn't be doing these things. And now we probably wouldn't be doing them in the exact way that we're doing them, but it's not like we don't have, imperialist aims. I mean, look, here's actually a great example. Like we're not doing what we did in Venezuela because of Israel. Right. I mean, that's clear, right? So you can argue that we are doing things that are much more foolish because of Israel, but I don't think it's like, but for Israel, we would be these pure, when you hear people from these America Firsters being like, this is not who we are. Yes, of course it's who we are. It's exactly.
Well, yeah, of course.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I happen to think that the Iran war is just so suicidal strategically and economically that only a president as obviously compromised by Israel as Donald Trump would actually do this. I don't think Kamala Harris would have done this simply because she's just not as compromised by the Mossad, frankly, is my theory. Right. Yeah, she didn't go to the island. Right, exactly. I think you have to be so under the thumb of Netanyahu to do this that I think Trump is the only one who'd have done it. That does not exonerate the crimes of the West more broadly. But I do think in this particular case, ironically, the one guy who was compromised enough to execute the Iran war is the one guy who everybody thought when he got elected, well, at least we won't get an Iran war. Yeah, the biggest fraud, the biggest psyop in modern political history, I think.
Yes, and I think that that's true. Now, one thing I would say, though, is that I think that what you're saying is true to the extent that whether it's compromise or money or whatever it is, and I'm certainly not it could be that he's compromised, right? But what I do think is important to remember is that we do missions that are harmful to Americans all the time and to soldiers, but not suicidal in this to this degree. And
this is going to cripple the entire world for an indefinite period of time.
Make sure people know that we on our own without Israel are happy to do things that get soldiers killed.
Of course, sure.
Look at Iraq, right? Like that.
No, absolutely. No question about that.
But I agree with you. I think it is one of those, not to sound corny, but it is one of those both things are at play.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, Brian Berletic has really been on that page. He wrote kind of a long tweet arguing that, saying, "Hey, who takes the incoming? Israel. They take the incoming. They are our forward base.
Right. Exactly.
We don't take those missiles.
Right.
So who's the he was really knocking down the idea that we're doing that we're doing this because Israel's making this. Yeah. That rather we get all of the advantage out of it.
Which,
but I mean,
what advantage?
at-
What advantage? No, who's
well,
getting-
that's what I
who-
that's
yeah.
well, that's what I was just gonna say. These
Yeah.
guys are a bunch of fruitcakes, crackpots, and incompetents. So they screwed up.
Exactly.
But
Right.
the basic deal with Israel is who has to live in a constant state of enmity with all their
Right.
neighbors on every border, not us, them.
Right.
Right. Exactly.
So what are you going to be doing, you personally? You said you're on the media committee when you go over there?
Delegation. Yeah, I'm going to be doing a lot of sun tanning. No, I'm going to be. We're going to be doing interviews with people. They're going to be filming. We're going to be working with Belly of the Beast, which is really exciting. I don't want to jinx it, but I'm hoping I'm going to get a really cool interview with someone really cool who has great stories to tell. I also really want to try to look into and demonstrate, like there was Cuba is always being called a terrorist. It gets put on the terrorist list. And the irony is that, the Cubans who have committed terrorism are the ones who are committing it against the Cuban people, are the Cuban exiles with the support of the United States. They've blown up planes. Luis Posada Carriles was someone who was given safe harbor in the United States. And I didn't know this until recently, and I follow this stuff, but there was an Italian who was killed in an explosion and a bomb in the 90s, an Italian citizen who was there visiting Cuba.
Really?
At the Cabana, yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And he, they've done all these things to honor him, but I want to go to that venue, actually. Speaking of the Rosenbergs, they have a Rosenbergs monument there in Cuba.
Do
Oh,
they
wow.
really?
I visited. I've been 3 times before. I forgot to say I've been to Cuba before. Yeah. We're going to be doing, solidarity work meetings. There are going to be all these different, there are all these different delegations. There's like medical delegation, media delegation. We're going to be having a lot of meetings, visiting a lot of places, clinics, doing a lot of cultural exchanges.
And how long are you going to be there for? How long is this for?
We get there Friday and leave Tuesday.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Wow.
Is there anything people can do to help?
I guess just look out for our, for now, the social media, follow Code Pink, follow Progressive International, follow me. We may not have a lot of real-time updates because it's not clear how reliable the internet is.
Sure. Of course.
Right.
Yeah.
But we'll
They
definitely have
just
a lot
got their
of
grid
stuff
back up.
Yeah, they did do that. Yeah. Oh my God. Did you hear what, so ridiculous, what, Marco Rubio said? He's like, there's problems there and they don't know how to fix it. So that's why we have to change who's in power.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
They just need more confidence in voters. That's the issue. That's what they want. They just want to make sure people are better at the grid.
Yeah. Extraordinary. All right. Well, Katie Halper, thanks so much for joining us. I know you had limited time. Enjoy what's the rest of your vacation before you get to work. It's great work.
Thank
thanks
you.
so
And
much.
I want to also I reached out to you, but I do want to just, offer my condolences to you, Keaton.
Oh,
Sorry.
thank you so much. Yes.
Mom.
Yes, you texted me. That was very kind of you. I actually had a dream. I actually had a dream related to my mother. Do you have 3 minutes to listen to my dream? I think as a New York Jew, you're going to really enjoy this story because it was actually the craziest and funniest dream I've ever had. Sorry, that was kind of emotionally manipulative. Do you have time to hear my dream about my dead mother, or is there like a tiki bar you have to be at or something? It's fine. You don't have to. No, but okay. So yeah.
I mean, you should really have knocked him for a loop. No, I really don't.
No, I really got to go.
Actually,
Sorry,
my martini maker made me a martini.
Yeah, exactly. No, so I had a dream, and I haven't been remembering my dreams lately, but I had a dream where I was selling jewelry at a craft fair, beaded jewelry, and that's definitely my mother, because my mother, that's how she made her living. Her and my father had a small beaded jewelry business. Wow. And because she got Parkinson's, they retired early. Because it's just, you don't have the fine motor skills to make the jewelry and lug the shit. So my wife and I took over the business because they still had all this inventory because they weren't planning on retiring.
This is real so far. Nothing's in the dream. Yeah.
Well, I'm just giving the backstory. That's how I knew. That's how I know, looking back, that me selling jewelry at a craft fair was because my mother had died.
Yeah.
I'm in my dream. I'm at a craft fair doing this again. I don't do this anymore.
Okay.
But so in my dream, so this is the dream. So I'm at a craft fair selling jewelry, And there's this couple. There's these two women set up at the booth next to me with their vendor booth. One is kind of like our age. One is like significantly older, and the older woman has like these like sunglasses and a shawl on, so like you can't really identify her. It's tough to see who she was. Tough to see what she looks like. So the younger woman at the booth next door, the vendors next door, they drop off this brochure on my vendor table, and the brochure says support Jewish values, support Israel. So I'm like, oh, so they're handing out Zionist literature at the booth next door to me. This is really kind of awkward. And so I whatever, I got to work the next 3 days. I'm just going to keep my head down, keep this to myself. Okay, fine. So then a few minutes later, these would-be customers go up over to the other booth, and they get to talking. And the older woman in the sunglasses and the shawl introduces herself. She says, my name's Miriam Adelson. I'm like, Miriam Adelson is handing out Zionist literature at the booth next to me at the craft fair. Wow, that's fucking wild. Holy shit. This is kind of scary now, right? So I'm like, all right, just don't say anything. Just do your job. All right. So my dad comes by, right? And because, my parents would come and say hello if we were working nearby. So my dad comes by, says hello to me, and, we talk for like a minute or two. And the people at the booth next door definitely see that, like, we are connected. So then my dad just innocently wanders over to Miriam Adelson's booth. And I'm like, oh, shit, this is going to be bad. So they hand him a piece of literature, and he just immediately goes off. What the fuck is this? Fuck you. How fucking dare you hand out this fucking bullshit? You should be ashamed of yourself. Jewish values, my ass. I'm like, you can't fucking... I'm just saying, like, holy shit, that's Miriam Adelson. Like, she'll have you killed. Like, you can't talk to Miriam Adelson. Like, there's like a gangster. I'm gonna shove this up your fucking ass, you cunt. I'm like, holy shit. So he's going off on her. He storms off in a rage. And I'm like, oh, now this is really bad. Now, like, we're going to be on the Mossad hit list now because he just went off on Miriam Adelson. And so this is where it gets really Jewy. So I don't say anything for the rest of the day. And when the day is over, I'm like, all right, maybe I can go over and kind of smooth things over with them, right? So I go over after they had this big blow up with my father. And I go over just to kind of see if we can settle things. And Miriam is very disgusted. She's not even looking at me. So I asked the younger woman, I said, so how'd you guys do today? Good? Just try and make small talk with him, just kind of feel it out, see how it's going. And she says, fine, like very cold. I'm like, oh shit, that didn't work. All right, whatever. So I wander back over to my booth and I'm packing up. And then I hear Miriam Adelson say to her partner, the younger woman working with her, he wanna be crazy, I show him crazy. He thinks he's crazy, I'm crazy, I show him crazy. I'm like, oh fuck, we're dead. And then I woke up, and I was very relieved to have woken up. So that was my dream.
That's very 70s Woody Allen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, she is crazy. She married Sheldon Adelson, so
she's crazy. So yeah, we had a run in with Miriam Adelson in my dream at a craft fair. So that was my dream. My mother wasn't in the dream. It took place after she had passed away, and I know that's why I had it, because she had just passed, and so I was selling her jewelry. And we just happened to have a booth next to Miriam Adelson, and my father went off on her and put us on a Mossad hit list. But then I woke up, I was like super relieved that didn't happen. I'm like, oh, thank God. Thank God. When you have a horrible dream, you're like, oh my God, now now this is going to be my life now. And then you wake up and you're like, thank God.
But like the emotion of it can stay with you sometimes.
It can.
So exercise that,
So I remembered that one. All right, Katie. Well, thank you for indulging that. Appreciate it. I thought you might enjoy that. It's kind of right up your alley there.
The Upper West Side.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, indeed. All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us. Safe travels as always, and do keep in touch as best you can from over there.
Great.
Yeah. Be safe, Katie. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
All righty. Bye. All right. Well, thanks, Katie Halper. Round of applause in the chat for Katie. That was great. It's going to be quite the experience for everybody involved, and quite the experience for us to follow along, yeah, Cuba, the internet is always even in normal times, it's difficult. So hopefully we get material from them as they're going, but I'm sure they'll have plenty of stuff to share when they get back. So that's awesome. Great crowd in here so far. 2005, 2006 now in the YouTube chat. That's beautiful, and that is good for one of these.
There we go. Yeah, that's amazing to go to a place like that that's under siege.
Right.
Like, man, I mean, they just got the power grid back up. I am assuming, I'd be surprised if they're going to be there that long with no blackouts with what's happening there. And you have Russia coming in with oil right now.
Right.
And I think they're due to arrive during the time that they're going to be there.
Yeah. It's going to be quite the time. So that's going to be really crazy. So we'll be following along as best we can, for sure. All right, we got some super chats. Sorry, go ahead.
I'll just take a look at that because I actually have that. When are they supposed to get there? Wow. Does it say?
Within days, so it could be any day now.
Days.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Probably right around the time they're getting there, because if they're leaving tomorrow,
that's what I would imagine. Yeah.
Over the weekend. Yeah, for sure. All right. Thanks for the $5 from Smitty Jones III over on YouTube. Guys, not sure if you heard it, but you should check out Matt Lieb and Daniel Mate's podcast, Bad Hasbro, especially 189. Also, sorry about your mom, Keaton. Thank you. Yes, we've heard of that show for sure. For sure. I've seen a couple episodes. Good stuff. Peter Monahan, Gator Pete, thanks for the $20. Sending you all my love and prayers to your family, Keaton. Thank you, Pete. Appreciate that. It's always hard to lose a parent. Been through it twice. They were old and in pain. Yet I am at peace now because I know they are at peace. May your God give you solace. Thank you, Peter. That's very kind of you.
He's godless.
Yeah, that's right. I'm godless. That's right. Nocturnal Human, thanks for the help. Thanks, Nocturnal Human. Appreciate that. Eric Rousseau, civil rights leader Dolores Huerta, says Cesar Chavez sexually assaulted her in the 60s, fathered 2 children who were adopted to protect movement. Michael Castillo, thanks for the $50. Let's have a prayer bell for Michael Castillo. Thank you. That's very kind of you, good sir. Good afternoon, gentlemen. I'd like to send my condolences to you, Keaton, and loved ones. If you needed to postpone the show for an entire week, we dissidents would understand. We all love you. Well, thank you, Michael. That's very kind of you. But I'm glad to be back. And yes, Russell was a very good friend. He did not allow me to prep any of the show today. So it's going to be Russ in the quarterback position, and I will be second chair today. Matt from Wisconsin, really appreciate you taking my call on Sunday. Thanks for calling, Matt from Wisconsin. The official snow report measured 30 inches in 24 hours, breaking the previous record of 26 inches set in 1904. Wow, that is crazy. Me shoot Skeet, thanks for the super sticker. Appreciate that. Cody Hammond, says $83.51 for a tank of gas. Holy shit. Holy shit. Where are you at? Are you out in California? Must be. I don't think it's
that wasn't a joke.
No, I believe it.
Holy
I believe
crap.
it. You got like a 15-gallon tank or whatever. I can see it getting that high in California. Who I know I am. I'm a dude playing dude disguised as another dude. Kirk Lazarus. Thank you, Eric Rousseau. Jeff Oran, thanks for the $5 on YouTube. I hope you can find the idiotic statement Trump just brought up an oppressor with the Prime Minister of Japan. Spoiler, Pearl Harbor is mentioned. Oh, really? That just happened? Oh, that must be a classic.
Oh, dear. Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
Look for that one. Our hearts are with you, Kay. Greetings from Scotland to my fave Red Sea Rambler. Thank you, Sean Hurl. Appreciate that very much. Eric Rousseau, I think America wants to steal all of Cuba's original condition classic cars and sell them crap cars. We need a Deadpool 2026 Israeli edition. Is BB already off the board? Well, he is not off the board, apparently, unless those are AI videos, which they may be. Jimmy did a good segment on that. Done a couple good segments on that, actually. Mandrak, member for 6 months. Thank you. Thanks for the $25 in lieu of flowers. My condolences, Keaton. Thanks very much. Dude Assface. Thanks, Assface, for the $49.99. Wow, thank you. Thank you very much. That's very kind of you. Appreciate that. Much love to Keaton. Appreciate that very much, friend. Thank you so much. Lucy Parsons, may your days get better, Keaton. Sorry for your loss. Also, Russ, when are you going to see Burning Ambition? Will it be in Asia? 666 forever. Thank you, Lucy.
Burning Ambition. What is that? It's a band?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Go ahead, but I want to tell this story. Our audience will appreciate it.
All right. If Six Fingers BB is dead, who's running America? That's right. Who's the president? It's an auto pen situation all over again. Okay, go ahead.
All right. So, if you're gonna find anywhere where there are gonna be some people who are nostalgic for the old regime, it's gonna be Saigon, which was the capital city of the old regime. So, I've been talking about how I don't see any sex work at all in Vietnam. Clandestinely, like I had a guy ride up on a scooter and like show me pictures of girls, obviously as a proposition. But there's, you don't have what you have in Thailand with this. And I thought, well, it's because of the history of colonization, of finding that, having experienced it as connecting it to colonialism. That's probably why you don't see it in Vietnam until I got to Saigon. So 1 block away is Bienview Walking Street. I didn't even realize that. I was looking for a cup of coffee for the show, and I happened to stumble into their like den of vice over there. Now, I don't want to overstate it. Like, man, it's a mix of like cover bands and what I would call go-go clubs, like not even really strip clubs. Like you can see what's happening from the street. It's nothing like really outrageous. It's like go-go. It's right go-go dancers. But you look at the whole atmosphere, the vibe. There was even a tiki lounge with like, singing, doing Waikiki, kind of like very 50s, 60s era. It really spoke of a weird nostalgia for that period, like the whole vibe, the whole aesthetic. It was pretty clearly referencing that.
Right.
It's complicated, man. You got to remember, in this part of the country, a lot of these people are from families that fought for the South.
Right.
Who like are not happy actually that the North won. So yeah, that was fascinating to stumble into. I haven't seen anything like that the whole time I've been here.
It's like going into Alabama here, the South still holds a grudge.
Okay, you want to see, I'm
like
probably going to put this into the intermission. You want to see something surreal? Before I even saw the go-go clubs, you had an all Vietnamese band doing a very good cover of Sweet Home Alabama.
Oh, wow.
With some like total fucking Jerry Springer.
Wow, that's funny.
Dancing in a t-shirt with a Vietnam hat on. I've got that on video. I'll probably put it in the intermission Sunday. It was hilarious.
Hear them ranting about Neil Young in Vietnamese.
That's what I'm saying. Like, and they were doing it well. But they were all Vietnamese, but they were doing a pretty good version of it.
Yeah.
Neil Young will remember, but they're all Vietnamese. But you got this one like white trash.
Did they do the Watergate line? Because I would think in Vietnam they would alter that a little bit. Like Watergate was mild by comparison.
No, that's what I'm saying, man. It's if there's anywhere that you're going to see a nostalgia for the American presence in Vietnam, it's going to be in the South.
Right. Yeah.
And particularly Saigon.
Wow.
Like, they do tours in the American Jeeps where they give like tours around the city in those Jeeps. Like they have some of them that they've restored.
Right. Wow. All right. Let's move right on along here. Let's get to some news.
All right. Let's rock and roll. All right. Joe Kent, who a lot of people are saying is probably the best hope that the DC universe has at this point. They might recruit him to replace Corn Sweat. There's some talk about it.
Yeah, he's gonna be Batman. This guy.
He might
Or
be
Superman.
Batman. They're talking about that too. James Gunn is probably out now with the Ellisons coming in, so they might reboot the franchise with Joe Kent now.
Right.
After much reflection, I have decided to resign from my position as director of the National Counterterrorism Center, effective today. I cannot, in good conscience, support the ongoing war in Iran. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation, and it is clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. It has been an honor serving under POTUS and DNI Gabbard. We'll get to her later. And leading the professionals at NCTC. May God bless America. So here's a little bit from his letter. The first couple paragraphs are the same as his tweet. So I'll pick it up in the third. I support the values and the foreign policies that you campaigned on. This is to Trump. In 2016, 2020, 2024, which you enacted in your first term. Until June of 2025, you understood that the wars in the Middle East were a trap that robbed America of the precious lives of our patriots and depleted the wealth and prosperity of our nation. In your first administration, you understood better than any modern president how to decisively apply military power without getting us drawn into never-ending wars. You demonstrated this by killing Qasem Soleimani and by defeating ISIS. So, keep in mind, this guy is MAGA Trumpist through and through. Who's saying this? I mean, look, he's good on that. He seems to have approved of his whole first term foreign policy, right?
He's a Zionist. He's a Christian Zionist, basically.
He's a Christian Zionist.
Yeah.
Early in this administration, high-ranking Israeli officials and influential members of the American media deployed a misinformation campaign that wholly undermined your America First platform and sowed pro-war sentiments to encourage a war with Iran. This echo chamber was used to deceive you into believing that Iran posed an imminent threat to the United States and that should you strike now, there was a clear path to a swift victory. This was a lie and is the same tactic the Israelis used to draw us into the disastrous Iraq war that cost our nation the lives of thousands of our best men and women. We cannot make this mistake again. As a veteran who deployed to combat 11 times, and as a Gold Star husband who lost my beloved wife Shannon in a war manufactured by Israel, this is way too much noticing, man. I cannot support sending the next generation off to fight and die in a war that serves no benefit to the American people, nor justifies the cost of American lives. I pray that you will reflect upon what we are doing in Iran and who we are doing it for. The time for bold action is now. You can reverse course and chart a new path for our nation, or you can allow us to slip further toward decline and chaos. You hold the cards. It was an honor to serve in your administration and to serve our great nation. Joe, you wouldn't last 2 minutes with Miriam's 15 inches. You wouldn't last. You don't know what that woman could make you do. Yeah, guy doesn't sound like a cuckoo bird lefty to me. But of course, that's not what they're tarring him as. They're tarring him as antiseptic, of course. Murray here quoted over the letter. Can you name a single issue where Mark Levin, Ben Shapiro, Lindsey Graham, Howard Lutnick, Meghan McCain, Laura Loomer, Hillary Clinton, Jake Tapper, Barry Weiss, John Fetterman, Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, Adam Kinzinger, Dan Crenshaw, Epstein's lawyer, Dave Rubin, and Mitch McConnell were on the same side, and it was good for America? Yep, it's as simple as that. So he left out Mike Johnson. Here is Mike Johnson explaining why Kent is all kinds of wrong about this.
At all the briefings, we all understood there was clearly an imminent threat, that Iran was very close to the enrichment of nuclear capability, and they were building missiles at a pace that no one in the region could keep up with. They were far outpacing our allies and friends and us in our defense capability, because we had personnel, installations, members of the armed services, and civilians in the region. Iran was building up ballistic missiles at such a rapid pace, and we knew that their plan was to fire them upon Americans. The commander-in-chief and his administration had a very difficult decision to make. I don't know where Joe Kent is getting his information, but he wasn't in those briefings, clearly, because the Secretary of State, the Secretary of War, and everyone, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Kane, they had exquisite intelligence, and we understood that this was a serious moment for us. Had the president waited, I am personally convinced that we would have mass casualties of Americans, service members and others, and our installations would have been dramatically damaged. And so we had to, the president felt that he had to strike first to prevent those mass casualties. That's a summary. I can't tell you the classified part, but that's a summary that's made public, and it's accurate. Yeah, Manu.
Wow, that sounds really plausible, man. Yeah. Clint Russell. Mike Johnson says, I don't know where Joe Kent was getting his information. I can help, Mike. He was the director of counterterrorism. He had access to all the same info you did. He just wasn't willing to lie about it. Yep. There's nothing you would have access to that he would not have access to. What are you talking about? Clint Russell, what Joe Kent just did was seismic. None of his detractors had access to more information than he did. None have a record like he does. And he just announced to the world that the Iran war is being fought for Israel. They'll spin, they'll cry, they'll smear, but he's right. And there's nothing they can do to stop that reality. Donald Trump is unfit for office, compromised by and waging wars for Israel. And the U.S. director of counterterrorism just resigned over it. Earth-shattering moment. And then he followed up by going on Tucker. And Tucker asked him very directly about this claim that Iran was about to get a nuclear weapon.
Saw Charlie Kirk on this earth.
Oh, whoops. Sorry about that. Wrong one. We'll get to that one.
On the verge of getting a nuclear weapon.
No, they weren't, 3 weeks ago when this started, and they weren't in June either. I mean, the Iranians have had a religious ruling, a fatwa, against actually developing a nuclear weapon since 2004. That's been in place since 2004. That's available in the public sphere. But then also we had no intelligence to indicate that fatwa was being disobeyed or it was on the cusp of being lifted. The Iranian strategy, it's actually pretty pragmatic. The Iranians are obviously aware of what's taking place in their region, and their strategy was to not completely abandon their nuclear program, because they saw what happened to Muammar Gaddafi in Libya when he said, hey, I've got no more nukes. I'll do what you say. I'll give up my nukes.
And we gave him the Nobel Peace Prize?
Yeah, we regime changed him, and he was executed by his own people in the most horrific way.
Oh, sodomized by a bayonet. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's that's the lesson I think that the entire region took from that when Hillary Clinton.
Unfortunately, that is what the neocon, neoliberal warmongers, that's the lesson that they showed everyone in the region. And then conversely, the Iranians also knew that if they came out and said, okay, we've got a nuke, whether they were bluffing or not, Saddam Hussein, Iraq right next door. So they kind of had
this. And he hung, I think.
He was hung by his own people, after a bloody, war that's still essentially going on inside of Iraq. So the Iranians' position, when viewed from the lens of the region, was actually fairly pragmatic. They were preventing, themselves from developing a bomb, but they still wanted the ability. They wanted the ability to enrich. They wanted the ability to have some components so that they weren't completely stripped of it. And when we always assessed that they were either several months or a year, 2 years away from actually being able to develop a nuclear weapon. And that's not because the Iranians are stupid people. I think we can tell right now that the Iranians are anything but stupid. They had the ability, I think, that the brain power to actually develop one, or they could have simply traded a ton of oil with Pakistan or with someone else to actually get a nuclear weapon. They were not doing that. We had no intelligence to indicate that they were.
It's pretty straightforward. Doesn't sound like a guy who's real sympathetic to Iran. Doesn't sound like he's motivated by some kind of deep connection to the Iranian people. Sounds like a professional. Speaker Johnson said the president had to strike first to prevent mass casualties from Iran's nuclear program. Trump's own counterterrorism director just told Tucker Carlson on camera that was not true. This is from Brian Allen. Mark Warner, no imminent threat. Chris Murphy, totally incoherent. Joe Kent, no, they weren't. 3 independent confirmations from people with classified access. 21 billion spent. 14 Americans dead. Oh, it's early yet. Oil at 102. 0 allied warships. Cuba dark, Taiwan surrounded for a nuclear weapon that didn't exist. Never stop connecting the dots. Yeah, man, they lit the world on fire for no reason at all. Like, we have not even begun to feel the impact of what this is going to do to the world. We're in this early stage where the real effects of this are not felt yet. This is going to rip the whole world apart, what they did here. But, you know, he wasn't done. He actually, for good measure, I guess once you've burned these people like this, you might as well talk about Charlie Kirk. They're never taking you back anyway. And so he did.
Charlie Kirk on this earth was in June in the West Wing in the stairway, and I said hi to him, and he looked me in the eye, and he said very loudly, and it's a small. You've been in the West Wing. It's small. It's a tight space, and he said, "Joe, stop us from getting into a war with Iran." Very loudly.
He was single-minded,
and he walked off, and he went, I believe, into the Oval. So when one of President Trump's closest advisors, who is vocally advocating for us to not go to war with Iran and for us to rethink at least our relationship with the Israelis. And then he's suddenly publicly assassinated, and we're not allowed to ask any questions about that. It's a data point. It's a data point that we need to look into.
What do you mean?
I'd say
when you say we're not allowed to ask any questions.
I'd say so. Yeah.
We've been told that this individual, Robinson, is a lone gunman, and maybe he is. But the investigation that I was a part of, the National Counterterrorism Center was a part of, we were stopped from continuing to investigate. And the FBI will say that they stopped that because they wanted to have turn everything over to the Utah state authorities. Everything's going to trial. It's very, very sensitive. But there was still a lot for us to look into that I can't really get into. But there was still linkage for us to investigate that we needed to run down. And I'm not making any conclusions. I'm not saying
I don't think you are.
Because of this happened. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying there's unanswered questions. We know the pressure because of the text messages that have been made public that Charlie was under a lot of pressure from a lot of pro-Israel donors. And again, we know Charlie was advocating to President Trump against this war with Iran.
So this is the counterterrorism director who's saying they had leads to follow up on, and the FBI told them not to. Nothing to see there, man. You know what I think this calls for? This calls for Matt Taibbi and Michael Tracy to eat some pizza on their
yeah,
show.
Exactly.
That's what this. Nothing to see there.
When we had Katie
No,
on,
that happens all the time. The FBI tells you to, no. Don't follow up. It's sensitive, and for very specious reasons.
I had this joke ready to say. I thought of it, but for Katie's benefit, I didn't say it because she knew Matt for a long time. I don't want to put her on the spot. But when you were reading the poll numbers about support for invading Cuba, it said Harris voters 6%, Trump voters 14%, independents 9%. It was really tempting for me to say Racket News subscribers 93%. For her, I didn't do it. That's what a good friend I am. See,
you have judgment. That's what I always say about you.
Yeah.
But here's our friend Jimmy Dore, who would have appreciated that joke if he had been on. At least he could have told him that joke.
Yeah.
At least someone from the Trump administration will admit the Charlie Kirk assassination is being covered up, and they're not allowed to ask any questions about it. The fact that Erica Kirk and the people currently running TPUSA have zero questions about this tells you everything you need to know about them. Yes, it does. I've been on that page from the first time that woman sent shivers down my spine. Mark Levin. Joe Ken, I would like to interview you on my radio show either tomorrow or Friday or one day next week for a full hour. I don't know how to reach you. Have your people call my people. Joe Ken says, sure, let's go. Sure, let's go. Levin, not long after, says, no wonder Joe Kent didn't get back to us to come on my radio show. I would have forced this information out of him anyway. He's sharing. I didn't look into it, but some hit piece on the guy. Regard Finder. All this Regard does is lie. He responded within 2 hours. 11 hours later, Mark Levin posts saying he didn't respond. Now, to be clear, Levin actually responded to that. And he says he was talking about not hearing from their producers. You could say that after a couple of days. You can't say that within a few hours.
Yeah, within a few hours.
You didn't hear from his producer. Wait, what do you think? He doesn't have his phone ringing off the hook right now? Like,
also, you think this guy's
you're
afraid
top
of
mind for this guy?
Yeah. Also, you think this guy's afraid of Mark Levin after everything he just put himself through? Oh yeah, no, really, really terrified of Mark Levin, who lives under Cinderella's stepsister's floorboards. There, that's. I guess they don't get. I guess they don't have good Wi-Fi there. Maybe he's have a difficult time getting in touch with you.
I'd say he has better things to do than to worry about you. I mean, I would assume he probably will go on with him eventually, but that's not something you like. It just shows what a douche he is. Like, you don't say that within a few hours.
No, the guy accepted your challenge publicly.
If it's a few days, and then you could say he's ducking me. You can't say that the same day. They didn't get back to us right away.
Right.
Come on.
By the way, that floorboard joke was a mouse joke, not a Jew joke. Not a Holocaust joke.
It was a
mouse
joke.
It's a mouse joke. Yeah.
It was a Jew tunnel.
He's a mouse because he sounds like a mouse.
Yeah. Yes, he does. So, hey, man, Joe Kent, probably clearly based on his admiration for Trump's previous efforts, including the assassination of Soleimani. He was even good with that. I'm sure I don't share a lot of politics with him, but hey, man, that's what America First looks like. He actually put America first and said, I'm not going to be a part of this. I am not going to be a part of allowing myself to be involved in a war that's being dictated by another country that's taking control of our government. In the next segment, we'll see how well that's gone over with the media.
Yeah, and I'm sure I will repeat this in the next segment, but that's okay because it bears repeating. Of course, the knives are going to be out for Joe Kent now. People are going to be digging up all kinds of quotes. And I remember when he was appointed to this job, how it was very concerning because of a lot of the extremely hostile anti-immigrant rhetoric that he was noted for. And, to be clear, I think it's very important to litigate that, since we now know, based on the past year and change, that this anti-immigrant rhetoric is really a Trojan horse for a technocratic police state. And so, I don't want to be too soft on that or too dismissive of that. And there will come a time to litigate that if and when Joe Kent ever runs for office. So I'm not saying he has a blank check to conduct himself however he wants from here on out. But having said all of that, this was a heroic act, and Joe Kent is an American hero for doing this, and I have no reservations about saying that. For someone of his rank to come out and say Iran pose zero imminent threat and we are doing this for Israel is astounding. And the window is fast closing for others in this administration to follow his lead and stand on principle, because as Max Blumenthal said on Jimmy Dore's show last night, Joe Kent now has a future in politics, whereas all these other fucking lying pieces of shit who are pussying out and hiding out, like J.D. Vance and even Marco Rubio, hasn't been all that vocal about it ever since he spilled the beans and said Israel did it first, so we had to follow. They're not getting elected jack shit.
They Tulsi'd him after that.
Yeah, exactly. They're not getting elected jack shit after this. Their careers are over after this. Joe Kent lives to fight another day because Joe Kent had the courage to stand on principle. So whatever you're going to hear about him in the coming days, and I'm not saying none of that's true, and all of that comes into consideration if and when he seeks office, but for this act alone, he is an American hero and an American patriot because, yes, he put America first when all these other two-faced fucking liars are frog marching us into Armageddon for Israel.
Yep.
All right. Let's take some super chats and some rumble rants here.
Do me a favor. While you're doing that, I got to go get that backpack. It's still up there.
Okay. All right. Sounds
right
good.
back.
All right. Let's see what we got over here. Eric Cuso also is jerking off better with 6 fingers, asking for an AI friend. Ha, good one. Tesla G. Hello, Katie. Cuba is still much better than Haiti. Well, yes. Well, yes. I mean, Cuba was able to protect itself from the imperial powers, whereas Haiti was punished by the imperial powers for abolishing slavery, shall we say. And so, no, Cuba's literacy rates are great. Cuba exports doctors around the world. Cuba sent an aid convoy to New Orleans after Katrina. As hostile as America has been to Cuba, they sent people to come and help the people of New Orleans in 2005. And so, yeah, no, Cuba is not a dystopia by any means. I mean, they have problems just like every country and organization has problems, but no, there's really no reason to fear Cuba as a dangerous place. It's dangerous now because they're under siege right now. But no, absolutely. Thank you, Tesla. Giovanni Polidori, thanks for the $5. I've been to Cuba 55 times. Wow. Even during the special period in the 90s. Took suitcases of school supplies last year. Kate, the best of America. Indeed. Thank you, Giovanni. Appreciate that very much. Vienticus Prime, Keaton mentioned Cuba discovering COVID vaccine. You forgot to mention how they suddenly, after, had a bunch of revolutionaries that needed freedom. Completely unrelated, I'm sure. Yeah. Well, like I said, they made the old-fashioned kind, the kind that actually stops you from getting the thing that you're vaccinating yourself against. They're brilliant there. Hey, Democrats and Republicans really come together around child trafficking. After all, you need to in order to... Jesus Christ, Vienticus. I didn't think you can get darker than the other child trafficking joke, but you outdid yourself there. Noah Goop, at least the Ukraine war is over. Right, exactly. Noah Goop, libs support carbon taxes and also blowing up Iranian and Russian oil refineries. Yeah, that's a Ponzi scheme if ever I saw one there. Victor Shakopopoulos, since the topic of the Vietnam War keeps coming up, I recommend again Hearts and Minds. I'm sure you'd both love it. Well, thank you for that. Kenman says condolences about your mom, Keaton. Thank you, Kenman. Appreciate that very much. Just because it was
trying
a dream.
To do the show in this hotel room with this furniture is like the Vietnam War.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. Just because it was a dream doesn't keep you off the Mossad hit list. Yeah, no, I know. It's just I live to fight another day, right? Vienticus Prime, U.S. mulls lifting oil sanctions on Iran. Read here. Thank you. Okay. Disclose.tv. Appreciate that. Okay. All right. I think I copied some of these over twice, so I will clean this up. Sorry. We are in the middle. Jake is working on some tech that'll allow us to more easily display all the super chats the right way, but we are doing the best we can for the time being. So let's move on to the next piece, and I'll get this cleaned up here.
All right. You might remember not very long ago, just a few weeks ago, Marco Rubio said the part you're not supposed to say out loud, that Israel started the war.
Why now? Well, there's two reasons why now. The first is it was abundantly clear that if Iran came under attack by anyone, the United States or Israel or anyone, they were going to respond against the United States. The orders had been delegated down to the field commanders. It was automatic, and in fact, it bared to be true because, in fact, within an hour of the initial attack on the leadership compound, the missile forces in the south and in the north, for that matter, had already been activated to launch. In fact, those had already been pre-positioned. The third is the assessment that was made that if we stood and waited for that attack to come first before we hit them, we would suffer much higher casualties. And so the president made the very wise decision. We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed. And then we would all be here answering questions about why we knew that and didn't act. Going back.
Okay. Said straight out, we did it because of Israel. Could not be any more clear about that.
Haven't heard much from him since.
No, they Tulsi'd him.
Yeah.
Tulsi'd him.
Well, I think he Tulsi'd himself. I think he wants to run for president someday, and he figures he better keep his fucking mouth shut about this.
he better not attach himself to this.
Exactly.
All right. So Tucker asked Joe Kent about this. He played that clip for him, and this is right after that.
That is his almost contemporaneous explanation, and it's not offhand. He reasons it out. He explains there's a logic chain there, and he says, we knew not that Iran was going to attack. He did not say that.
Right.
He said we knew that Israel was going to attack Iran, and in retaliation for those attacks by Israel against Iran, Iran might attack American forces. So the imminent threat that the Secretary of State is describing is not from Iran, it's from Israel.
Exactly. And I think this speaks to the broader issue. Who is in charge of our policy in the Middle East? Who is in charge of when we decide to go to war or not? In this case, with what the Secretary described, and later on the President, later on the Speaker of the House, and the way the events played out, the Israelis drove the decision to take this action, which we knew would set off a series of events, meaning the Iranians would retaliate. Now, I think there's a potential there where we could have done several different things. We could have simply said to the Israelis, no, you will not. And if you do, then we will take something away from you. I think that it's fine that we offer defense to Israel. But when we're providing the means for their defense, we get to dictate the terms of when they go on the offensive. Otherwise, they stand to lose that relationship. And the Israelis felt emboldened that no matter what they did, no matter what situation they put us in, that they could go ahead and take this action, and we would just have to react.
All right. Wow. Well, the media must be really excited to have someone from this hated Trump administration. I mean, this is one thing Trump was accurate about. I mean, the media absolutely despises him, even as they profit from him and always have. But the figures in the media, the Jake Tappers, I mean, yeah, they absolutely despise Trump. You would think they'd be lining up to hear what Joe Kent has to say, but there's a little problem. It's a little problem. If what he did was said, I'm tired of Russia dictating your policy, they'd be celebrating him as an American hero, right? But not when you name that country, not when you call out that country. So here's Jake Tapper accusing Joe Kent just straight out of being antiseptic there.
Iran posed no imminent threat to the United States. He blamed the war and also the war in Iraq and also the U.S. war against ISIS in Syria. He blamed all of it on pressure from Israel and the pro-Israel lobby. Kent's letter also, first of all, before he was confirmed as director of the NCTC, he faced Senate opposition because of ties to white supremacists and anti-Semites. His letter blames Israel and absolves Trump. Blames Israel for the war in Iran. Blames Israel for the war in Iraq. Blames Israel.
This is the coward line.
It does not absolve Trump. It says Trump is manipulated by Israel.
This is the coward line now that everybody is peddling. Jake Tapper, Michael Tracy, even they're saying that that by saying Trump was led blindly into war with Iran, you're exonerating Trump by absolving him of agency. That's nonsense. That's nonsense. That's not what that means. Saying Trump was blindly led by Israel to war is accurate. That does not absolve Trump of anything. What it proves is that Donald Trump is a vacuous bullshit artist who was a tool of Israel this whole time and just lied to everybody else along the way about whatever convictions he had because he's a man of no convictions. That's not
Right.
exonerating him. That's saying he's a man who stands for nothing and bullshitted everyone around him to believe that he stood for something. But that's the line now. Is that, oh, you're letting Trump off the hook by blaming Israel? That's nonsense. That's bullshit. That is deflection.
And its supporters for ISIS, for the war on ISIS in Syria. And I think there are a lot of people today wondering, how did somebody like this get a position like this in government given his anti-Semitic views?
A legitimate question. I'm personally glad he's gone. NCTC is a very important operation that connects the dots to protect the American people, particularly right now in a high state of terror alert. This anti-Semitism that we've traditionally seen on the left, we're now seeing it a little bit on the right side here.
Turns out no one wants
to
to die for Israel.
I personally would want to
Not even the right-wingers won't die for
given
Israel
his
nowadays.
anti-Israel views and his quite frankly, president views now.
Oh.
And his anti-president views
anti-president.
might be even worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Anti-Semitism is traditionally a left position. Well, the Ku Klux Klan would like to have a word, as would the Nazi Party. And if you're getting your history from Elon Musk, you need to get a better education. No, the Nazis were not socialists. They were not left-wing socialists. They were actually supported by the aristocrats and the upper classes in Germany because they thought they could manipulate them into acting as a bulwark against the communists. And here on CNBC, we get human penis Jonathan Greenblatt here being asked whether Israel manipulated this war.
In the middle of a war, in the Middle East, in Iran specifically. But there is a lot of debate among politicians, among the public here in the U.S., among some very influential voices, by the way, in the Republican Party, including people like Tucker Carlson and others, who have suggested that we have been pulled, the U.S. has been pulled into this war by Israel. And there is a view among some that unto itself creates these other questions about anti-Semitism and this sort of interconnection between those who have problems with Israel and those who have problem with Jews.
So this is a good opportunity to talk about anti-Semitism, right? Some might call it, they call it the oldest
Well,
hatred.
when is it
Some
not?
might call it the oldest conspiracy theory. It's been around for thousands of years, and it's typically involved scapegoating.
The fucking Secretary of State literally said we attacked Iran because Israel forced our hands. Literally said Israel was going to attack, so we had to.
And blaming a small group of people for things that are going wrong. This has been happening for ages and ages. And one of those age-old tropes is that Jews aren't loyal to the country where they live. Remember, they lived as a minority in exile for thousands of years. And that not only they're not loyal, they cause the world's wars. Right? Again, this is an age-old trope that the Jews caused World War I, that the Jews caused World War II, and the Jews caused the Gulf War. And now we're seeing people like Tucker Carlson make this claim. Now, look, Tucker Carlson is probably the most prominent public.
What you? Okay, listen, man. If you're going to make this argument, have the courage of your convictions and call out Marco Rubio, but you're not going to do that, are you?
Right.
You're not going to do that. Call out Marco Rubio, man. He's the one who literally went up there and said, we did this because of Israel.
It's obvious to everybody.
He wants to name Tucker Carlson. He wants to litigate these media figures who don't have any actual power.
I've never seen
real power in the government.
I've never seen gaslighting like this in my life. The Israelis have been saying for decades they've wanted to do this.
Well,
they've been saying this for decades. Even if Rubio didn't say what he said, it would be obvious to anyone with two brain cells to rub together that Israel led the charge here.
Well, we showed the montage of Netanyahu going back to 1996, saying Iran's about to get a nuclear weapon. Back to 1996, and not to digress, but this whole vision that Zionists and Zionist propagandists like the literal dickhead here promulgate, that what existed before Israel were a people who saw themselves in that way as a people in exile from their homeland. That is a Zionist construction. That is a myth. That is a myth. These were disparate people with different customs, different traditions, different languages, different dress, who did not see themselves as a nation in that way until the Zionist crackpots came and constructed a fake culture out of this polyglot. That's why originally the original Zionists, because they were secular, they were not into the Bible. They started to promote the Bible as a way of creating a common myth among these different groups that had assimilated into the different places that they lived. And not even assimilated, man. Most of these people who wound up in Israel, they're not even descended from those people. The Palestinians are. They're not even descended from those original Hebrew Jews.
Right.
So the whole premise is just bullshit. The whole premise that there was this wandering population dreaming of returning to their homeland. That is a Zionist invention. It's complete bullshit.
Public bigot in our lives today. Like, look, he has platformed Holocaust deniers. He's platformed virulent anti-Semites. He's engaged in this kind of rhetoric for a long
I'm sorry. Is Tucker Carlson in the government? Is Tucker Carlson in the government? Is he making decisions about this war? He asked you about the war. He didn't ask you about Tucker Carlson.
long time. So it shouldn't be surprised that he goes there. But I think, to be honest with you, there's a reasonable debate to have about this war. There's a reasonable debate to have, how's it being prosecuted? Do we understand what the objectives are, et cetera? But it's unreasonable to suggest that President Trump is being manipulated by a small group of people
who give him an enormous amount of money.
Well, such as a small group of people. It's a government. It's our ally in the region. You know, like the whole framing of this. Are you saying there's a small group of shifty characters who's manipulating Donald Trump? Well, we're not saying it's a small group of shifty. We're saying it's Benjamin Netanyahu. We're saying it's the Israeli government. Yes. That's what we're talking about.
Not me. I'm not doing it. Miriam Adelson.
Me and Russell aren't doing it. Russell and I are a small group of Jewish guys. We're not doing it. That's not what we're talking about. You're talking about.
I was doing it, but I'm on vacation now.
Yeah, he's on vacation. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He's trying to enjoy himself.
Get vacation from the Zog right now. So, hey, Nick Cruz tweeted this out. MSNBC and Zionist media is furious at Joe Kent and now smearing him as a Nick Fuentes adjacent white nationalist. This is weird considering Joe Kent publicly disavowed Nick Fuentes.
Also has a history of very close flirtation and association with figures in the white nationalist movement like Nick Fuentes, the Proud Boys, Tucker Carlson, who...
All right, so for any of our, remaining right-wing audience, we do have some. We do have some conservatives. Not really MAGA anymore, but who is, right? When you claim, or if you believe the claim that the media is liberal, I want you to remember how they treated Joe Kent, right? Trump's their number one enemy, right? Liberals are supposed to not like wars, right? In the Middle East, they're supposed to be anti-war. Does this seem liberal to you? Everyone's got their hair on fire about Ellison taking over CNN. Would anyone really notice the difference? Like, how different would it be? This is multiple sclerosis now. Look how right-wing this is. Like, what was the difference? Look what Jake Tapper just did, right? Well, how would that be different under Barry Weiss, the way they're covering this?
On Jimmy's segment last night, I think I'm remembering this correctly. I hope I'm attributing this to the right person. I'm pretty sure I am. Branko Marcetic, the Jacobin writer. He said something to the effect of, if Joe Kent is this horrible, like, Nazi adjacent white nationalist guy, why is liberal media panicking over him when he's on his way out of power? Like, we didn't see this hysterical meltdown about Joe Kent when he was given the job.
No,
you saw a few articles here and there got written about him, but generally this did not command the news cycle when this supposed white nationalist, neo-Nazi, anti-Semite was given the counterterrorism chief job. But now that he's resigning from power in protest of the war, now all of a sudden he's a Nazi, he's this and that. Well, the time to ring the alarm about that would have been when he was in government, not when he's
he
coming
actually
out of
had
government.
power.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's very obvious who they work for, and it's the same people Trump works for.
Are very much making these sort of allegations all the time, regardless of whether they have merit. So.
Okay. And Nick brought the receipts. Dude is literally a Christian Zionist. Now they're smearing him as a Nazi because he doesn't support Israeli war.
Yep.
And here's Joe Kent from 2022. My opponents are again spreading lies about me. I strongly condemn Nick Fuentes' politics, especially in regards to our ally Israel. I ignored his invitation to speak at his recent conference in Orlando, and I am not aware of, nor do I accept any endorsement from him. Boom.
Boom.
There you go.
Yep.
Could not be more clear. Eli Clifton. Trump, we went to war because of Israel. Rubio, we went to war because of Israel. Joe Kent, we went to war because of Israel. Democratic pundits, it's a crazy conspiracy theory to say we went to war because of Israel. Yeah, I mean, it couldn't be more transparent. They're not even trying anymore. They're really not. They know that they're down to the 78 to dead demographic. They're not going to. They're probably taking a nap while we're on anyway.
Right.
So, hey, we don't have to speculate. We got confirmation from people who were in the room that Iran was ready to give up its nuclear program, ready to make all kinds of concessions, that it posed no threat, and that this was really manipulated by Israel. You've got that from two different sources now that were in the room. This was an op-ed written for The Economist by Badr, I know I'm going to murder this, forgive me, Badr al-Busaidi, Oman's chief diplomat, who was in the room for the negotiations. Twice in 9 months, the United States and Iran have been on the verge of a real deal on the most difficult issue that divides them, Iran's nuclear energy program, and American fears that it could be a weapons program. So it was a shock, but not a surprise, when on February 28th, just a few hours after the latest and most substantive talks, Israel and America again launched an unlawful military strike against the peace that had briefly appeared really possible. Iran's retaliation against what it claims are American targets on the territory of its neighbors was an inevitable, if deeply regrettable and completely unacceptable result. Spoken like a diplomat. Faced with what both Israel and America described as a war designed to terminate the Islamic Republic, this was probably the only rational option available to the Iranian leadership. Yeah, it's funny when you tell people that your objective is to take them all out. That they're going to fight like they've been cornered, because they have, right? At that point, you're going to do anything. The effects of this retaliation are felt most acutely on the southern side of the Gulf, where Arab countries that had placed their trust in American security cooperation now experience that cooperation as an acute vulnerability, threatening their present security and future prosperity. For Gulf states, an economic model in which global sport, tourism, aviation, and hack comedians, in addition to technology, were to play an important role is now endangered. He didn't say the hack comedians part. Plans to become a global hub for data centers may need to be revised. The effects of Iran's retaliation are already being felt globally as maritime traffic through the Strait of Hormuz is severely disrupted, driving up energy prices and threatening deep recession. If this had not been anticipated by the architects of this war, that was surely a grave miscalculation. The American administration's greatest miscalculation, of course, was allowing itself to be drawn into this war in the first place. This is not America's war, and there is no likely scenario in which both Israel and America will get what they want from it. Hopefully, America's commitment to regime change is just rhetorical, whereas Israel explicitly seeks the overthrow of the Islamic Republic and probably cares little about how the country is governed or by whom once this has been achieved. With this objective in mind, Israel's leadership seems to have persuaded America that Iran had been so weakened by sanctions, internal divisions, and the American-Israeli bombings of its nuclear sites last June that an unconditional surrender would swiftly follow the initial assault and the assassination of the supreme leader. Sounds familiar? They're going to greet us as liberators. But it should now be clear that for Israel to achieve its stated objective will require a long military campaign to which America would have to commit troops on the ground, opening a new front in the forever wars which President Donald Trump previously vowed to end. This is not what America's government wants, nor do its people, who certainly do not see this as their war. The question for Friends of America is simple. What can we do to extricate the superpower from this unwanted entanglement? First of all, America's friends have a responsibility to tell the truth. That begins with the fact that there are two parties to this war who have nothing to gain from it, and that the national interests of both Iran and America lie in the earliest possible end to hostilities. This is an uncomfortable truth to tell because it involves indicating the extent to which America has lost control of its own foreign policy, but it must be told. Boom. Boom. And hey, this is the second person who's in the room who now we know was absolutely outraged by the fact that we started this war because there was no reason for it, according to everyone who was there, who's not, Witkoff or Kushner. UK security advisor attended U.S. Iran talks and judged deal was within reach. This was Jonathan Powell. Britain's national security advisor, Jonathan Powell, attended the final talks between the U.S. and Iran and judged that the offer made by Tehran on its nuclear program was significant enough to prevent a rush to war, The Guardian can reveal. Powell thought progress had been made in Geneva in late February and that the deal proposed by Iran was surprising, according to sources. 2 days after the talks ended, and after a date had been agreed for a further round of technical talks in Vienna, the U.S. and Israel launched the attack on Iran. Kushner and Witkoff had invited Rafael Grossi, the Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, to the Geneva talks to provide technical expertise, though Kushner would later claim that he and Witkoff had, quote, a pretty deep understanding of the issues that matter in this. Nuclear experts would later say that Witkoff's pronouncements on the Iran nuclear program were riddled with basic errors. Powell has long experience as a mediator, and one source said Powell brought an expert from the UK Cabinet Office with him. Quote, it was not a complete deal, but it was progress and was unlikely to be the Iranians' final offer. The British team expected the next round of negotiations to go ahead on the basis of the progress in Geneva, unquote. That next round of talks was due to take place in Vienna on Monday, 2nd March, but never happened. The U.S. and Israel had launched their all-out attack 2 days earlier. In the final session of the talks, Iran agreed to a 3 to 5 year pause on domestic enrichment, but the U.S. in the afternoon session, after consultation with Trump, demanded a 10-year pause. In practice, Iran had no means to enrich domestically because of the bombing of its enrichment plants in 2025. Iran had also made an offer of what the mediators described as an economic bonanza, with the U.S. being given the chance to participate in a future civil nuclear program. I thought Donald Trump's a deal maker. Sounds like a good deal, right? Good deal for America. Better deal than complete global economic meltdown. In return, nearly 80% of the economic sanctions on Iran would have been lifted, including assets frozen in Qatar, a demand Iran made in the 2025 talks. The Oman mediator believed the offer of zero stockpiling of highly enriched uranium was a breakthrough that meant an agreement was within reach. Accounts differ on whether Kushner left the talks, giving the impression Trump would welcome what had been agreed, or that the U.S. negotiators knew it would take something massive to persuade Trump that war was not the best option. One Gulf diplomat with knowledge of the talks said, "We regarded Witkoff and Kushner as Israeli assets that dragged a president into a war he wants to get out of." All right. So there you go. You got two different sources who were in the room saying it didn't have to be this way, that Iran came a very long way towards giving the U.S. what it wanted, and this war was really fought for Israel. This is Arnaud Bertrand commenting on this article. It's now unarguable that the war on Iran is one of the most blatant crimes of aggression in history. You now have not one, but two external participants of the U.S.-Iran talks, Oman's foreign minister and the UK's national security advisor, who confirmed that the U.S. and Israel attacked despite Iran effectively meeting U.S. conditions for a deal, ensuring it could never build a nuclear weapon permanently. Going on. Concretely, this means the war wasn't a failure of diplomacy, but a deliberate destruction of it. And it also means that the U.S. and Israel have irresponsibly plunged the entire world in an unprecedented energy crisis, affecting the livelihood of billions of people worldwide when it was completely avoidable. It's beyond me how you can look at this and not conclude that the real threat all along wasn't Iran, but the U.S.-Israeli axis. They're the only parties at the table who wanted war and are making every person on the planet pay the price for it. Extraordinarily, even the UK National Security Advisor is now basically saying this. And you know what? Richard Medhurst makes a very good point here, and this kind of goes to some of what Katie was saying before regarding American agency and motives and all this. You'll recall there were no Epstein files to cover up when Trump murdered Soleimani, ripped up the JCPOA, imposed sanctions on Syria and Iran, moved the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem, and attempted to steal Syria's Golan Heights. Nor when the U.S. nuked Japan, dropped napalm on Vietnam, and cluster bombs on Laos and Cambodia, and invaded Iraq and Afghanistan. Starting to get the picture? Yes. On the one hand, and that's really the conclusion we came to with Katie, you can't argue that Israel didn't force Trump's hand. At the same time, it doesn't take much forcing to get the United States to start committing genocidal war crimes. Like, that's kind of what we do. That's our stock and trade. That's what we've always done. Our go-to has always been to massacre civilians and to try to force submission through the application of just overwhelming psychopathic, merciless violence. That's who we are as a nation. A nation that was not psychologically disposed to that couldn't be manipulated into doing what we're doing to Iran right now. Just wouldn't be in the nature, in the character of the country. That's in our character. That's embedded. That's baked in. This is what we always do. That's what I was broaching with Katie there, you know, like even certain contexts where very often we'll say, well, we were the good guys there. Not really. In general, the whole history of United States foreign policy has been genocidal victimization of weaker powers. You know, we've always been vicious bullies. Now it is a very mask off moment. We're going to get into with the Europeans a little later. Trump's so bad he's making Keir Starmer start to look good. There's only so far you could push people. This was very predictable before they're going to start to say, you know what, fuck you, man. Especially you're going to do that with the Europeans. You got to remember, a lot of these countries have their own imperial arrogance. They have their own imperial histories. They have their own perspective of that very unique kind of national pride. If you go to countries that were imperial powers, you can see a very marked difference in the way that they carry themselves, in the way that they present their own history. You go to Australia, you know what Australia does for their like Australia Day, for their national day, basically their 4th of July? They have some barbecues, and they go down to the beach with what they call thongs, we would call flip-flops, and they try to break the Guinness World Record of having the most inflatable flip-flops in the water. That's people who never had an empire. Okay. Right. You go to countries like France, like England, that had an empire, even if they don't have one now, there is a marked difference in their sense of themselves. There's a haughtiness to countries that had an empire. And you push countries that see themselves that way that hard, and eventually those old reflexes are going to come back. I mean, it takes a lot, because they had a pretty sweet deal with the United States where, we were going to cover all the defense and they could just focus on having a social safety net. But given that Trump's made it pretty clear he's not going to honor that agreement anymore, what's in it for them? You pushed it to the point that there's nothing in it for them, and they despise us, and they certainly despise him. So you take away the carrot, nothing left but the stick. Eventually, they're going to tell you to go fuck yourself, and as we'll see, that's starting to happen.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said when we were talking to Katie, I don't think it's an either-or thing. I think both things are true. Obviously, this is not out of character for us, but the difference is, in this particular example, there is so obviously no strategic benefit to us. In other words, you can't even really justify this on just purely craven grounds of self-interest, because there is no self-interest. There's no self-interest in it for Israel. This is just an insane sort of suicidal mission even for them. I mean, they're getting hit with missiles left and right now. This isn't going to end well for them. This is just psychotic. Like, to me, this is going a step beyond us being the imperial bully. This is just really self-destructive behavior that I think we could only be led into by someone as empty and as compromised as Donald Trump. I think that any other leader would not do this, because, first of all, they wouldn't be as obviously compromised by Israel, and they would see no self-interest in it. Even as an imperial power, even as a craven, evil imperial power, there has to be some path to victory. There has to be some strategic advantage to gain. This is a suicide mission. It really is, obviously. Well, and so, it takes a guy like Joe Kent calling it out to cause this media meltdown over it, I guess. But he didn't say anything Marco Rubio didn't already say.
Right. Well, that's where the cabinet of crackpot factors comes in.
Of course.
It's a cabinet of incompetent crackpots. This is what you get.
Exactly. All right, give me just one moment. I'm going to do our read here. Okay. All right. So here's a little inside scoop that many creators are talking about behind the scenes, everybody. It's actually one of the reasons that we're using Rumble. They made a way to super chat creators so that we get paid immediately and without any fees. So YouTube and Twitch can take up to 50% of fees when you tip creators, but this method takes none. That's right. The platform takes 0 fees. We keep nearly 100% of what you send us. So you can super chat with Bitcoin, Tether USD, or even Tether Gold stable coins, which are tied to the US dollar, of course. The tip will show up directly on our Rumble chat, which we'll, of course, do our best to read. So it's just like sending a Rumble rant. When you go to send a Rumble rant, you'll have the option to tip in dollars or through your Rumble wallet. So it's really simple. All you need to do is download the Rumble wallet on the App Store and send the tips to your favorite creators, including, of course, us here at Do Dissidents. So you can go to wallet.rumble.com, or you can download the app directly from the app stores. QR code is on the screen right now. What an amazing way to get rid of the middleman and help the creator economy. So shout out to Rumble for making this disruptive technology. So if you want a new way to super chat or Rumble rant us, use Rumble Wallet, wallet.rumble.com. Okay. All right.
That was really good, man. When are they going to start giving awards for ad reads?
Yeah. Yeah. When are they going to start giving awards for some ad reads?
That was hot, man.
That was a hot read. Well done, gotta say. All right. Let's go to some super chats and some Rumble rants over here. Okay. Satanica, love from Bahrain. As always, Keaton, very sorry to hear about the passing of your mother and hope your family is doing well through these tough times. Thank you very much. Appreciate that so much, Satanica. Appreciate that. Huge fan of Katie. Thank you very much. Darius King. I know some coworkers who somehow think what Trump is doing 2D or 4D chess. I almost died from disbelief hearing it. Well, did you hear that? It went viral, that lady at the gas station. When they asked what they think of Trump, he's like, he's a piece of shit. The 3-time Trump voter lady?
Yeah, I've got that one.
Oh, you got it? Okay, good.
Yeah.
Empire We Are. The myth of Israeli nukes. American aircraft supplied to Israel, such as the F-15, were built from the factory to carry and deploy American B-61 series nuclear weapons, not mythical Israeli bombs. Thank you, Empire We Are. Appreciate that. John Olmstead, excuse me, thanks for the $2. Wait, were your parents deadheads, bead sellers? Basically, yeah, they were basically hippies. I mean, I was born in San Francisco, so they were street vendors in San Francisco. That's how they met. So, yeah, Haight-Ashbury, that whole thing. So, yeah, they were essentially deadheads. And the dead were a little before their time, but not much. I mean, actually, no, they were not before their time. They were before my time. But, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say they wouldn't have been before.
No, they wouldn't have been before their time. They'd have been, early 20s when they came out. I think of it in terms of when I was born. They weren't deadheads necessarily at the time I was born. That was a little after the peak of the Grateful Dead era. But yes, that is essentially what they were. 7th Sea Sinbad, keep up the good work, guys, watching from London. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Vienticus, new Germany, UK, France, Italy, Netherlands, and Japan issue joint statement condemning Iran and expressing their readiness to contribute to appropriate efforts to ensure safe passage through Hormuz. Interesting. Where is that from? George, Russ, when you're in China, I need you to research something for me to settle an old bet. When they go out to eat, do they also call it going out for Chinese food? Let me know. That is spoken like a true Israeli, George. Which side did you bet? Michael Castillo said you forgot my Jenks sound drop. Oh, yeah, we need to get Michael's sound drop when you get a second. Thank you, Michael.
I'm loading in the videos.
All right. Mike Johnson has to go to SCIF to review the intel that Joe Kent creates, as if Grindr Mike even comprehends what it means. Joe Kent is an expert. Thank you. 7th Sea Sinbad, will Netanyahu and Trump unwittingly kill the dollar? Maybe. Social media is saying lucky Larry Silverstein just took out terrorist attack insurance on U.S. Bank Tower in L.A. Yeah, I saw that story. A while back. Yasim Miller, thanks for the $10, Yasim, from YouTube. My condolences to you, Keaton. Your message deeply moved me. It truly resonated, especially your reflection on parents in Gaza and Iran. Your mother will always be with you. Where is it here? Will always be with you. They never truly leave us. Thank you, Yasim. Appreciate that very much. It's very kind of you. Chuck and A. Smith, thanks for the super sticker. Appreciate that. EO Shush, Kent goes for 2 hours, doesn't mention Venezuela, Cuba. This is a fracture between Zionists and Afrikaner billionaires who see their cash cow Gulf states propping up tech being bombed, and that cash could dry up. Yeah, look, he's not the guy is no saint for sure. But as it stands, like I said, for someone of that rank, I mean, he is second under Tulsi Gabbard, and we know what Tulsi did. We're going to get to that later. It was a huge move, a huge move. Nocturnal Human grocery update. The truck on Tuesday was huge, especially for the canned food. I stocked basically the entire aisle. People are stocking up now, which is good. Well, yeah, that's foresight. Thanks for that insight. Appreciate that, Nocturnal Human. Professor Brown note, having a gigantic Israel lobby network if U.S. is already Israel seems a bit wasteful. I thought JOOs were supposed to be good with money. Yeah, exactly. Really cut out the middleman here. Well, that's what that $200 million was for, right? David Hughes, hey, I saw Abby Martin's Earth's Greatest Enemy documentary this week, and I think it's the most important documentary ever made. Abby would make a good guest to talk about it. Yeah, I would love to have Abby Martin on the show, for sure. Absolutely. EO Shush, the MAGA hope that Trump was tricked and manipulated by the Jews in the part they don't mention. That Jew was Epstein. Yeah. Good one. Vienticus Prime, too bad Russ missed the child trafficking joke. Well, make it again. I'll read it again, Vienticus. I'll read it again. I already took it out of the queue.
What was that when I was getting my backpack?
Yeah. You can write it again. I'll read it again.
Okay, so I feel like I'm in a science fiction movie about the end of the world, because like you could definitely see like that working as a screenplay. Like you're traveling Asia as the world is ending, and you're hearing in news items, but it hasn't really impacted where you are yet. Right? But you're just, it's a very weird feeling.
Well, yeah, we all have a lot of sympathy for you. We all feel really bad that you feel.
I'm
joking. I'm saying, yeah, isn't it weird?
It's strange. It's very strange to be hearing these news items, but like it's not here yet. It's gonna be. Vietnam's canceling flights next month.
Right. Yeah. No, it's gonna be. It's gonna hit everybody. Absolutely.
Well, it's gonna hit here particularly hard. It just hasn't yet. I mean, I assume that's the case back there too. Like I don't drive, so I guess if I drove here, I would see that. Just like there.
I mean, the thing about gas prices is, it has a cumulative effect, but really every time at the pump, if gas is up by, 70 cents a gallon, which it is, that's about, in our case, like $8 per fill. So, I mean, really, the thing about the gas prices is it's more psychological, because it doesn't cost you all that much money. I mean, if the average person fills their gas tank, once a week, you're talking about an extra like $30 a month at an extra 70 cents a gallon. But it's the psychology of the signs on the road used to say $2.90, and now they say $3.70, right? Now, where it hits people very hard, and I'm sympathetic to this because I used to do this for a living. I used to drive for a living. If you're racking up, thousands of miles on the car, that shit really does add up. So I'm not saying it's insignificant, but I think part of the reason why gas prices are so much this sort of measuring stick is because you're constantly reminded of the impact of the war every time you drive past a gas station now, and you see $3.70 a gallon as opposed to $2.90. So yeah, it definitely makes its presence known.
And it's just the beginning.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, it's going to go up to $5 again. Like once you get up there, once you get up into those numbers, now it's really adding up pretty fast. And the other thing too is oil prices affect market prices across the board. It's not just the gas station. It's not what you pay at the pump. What you pay at the pump is an indicator of how much you're getting hosed for everything else.
Yeah, and food prices are going to go through the roof because of the fertilizer. Like it's just as I think the next couple weeks go, there's going to be a lot of impact here because, like I said, you're already having Vietnam canceling flights. So what's it going to be like in Cambodia? But now then you go over to China, and according to China, we don't really use much oil from there, and we have our own reserves, and we're good. Fuck you. So what's America going to be like by the time I'm supposed to go back? What's it going to be like by May? And what will that be like going from China to there?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I think I'm going to be coming back to like Mad Max. That's what I'm expecting.
We shall see. 7C Sinbad, keep up the good work, guys, watching from London. Thank you for that. Yassine Miller says, I had to say this. I find it interesting how Matt Taibbi and Tucker Carlson have taken such different directions over time. It really shows how people can evolve into very different versions of themselves. Yo, that fucking episode, I'm like an hour and 20 minutes through it. It's just kind of amazing. They're like, yeah, I mean, if it turns out that, the case is what Tucker says it is, then, yeah, I think it's very troubling that the CIA spied on him. But, we don't know that yet. Yeah, no, I think this administration really deserves the benefit of the doubt over a journalist who's opposing the war. Yeah, we should just wait and see. This is like Matt Taibbi we're talking about here.
Pathetic.
It's pathetic. It's fucking pathetic. Like, it's beyond a joke. Beyond the joke. And
Why-
I haven't watched the whole
why
thing. I
would
watched
you-
120
why would you do
minutes of a
that?
show called Today's News, and they basically did not mention the war 80 minutes in. They mentioned it like tangentially, as it comes up as an attachment to, other stories about Tucker Carlson's, potential persecution here. No, it's really bad. Like, it's really horrible. Actually.
Why are you doing that to yourself?
Yeah.
No, really.
bad.
Like, why are you doing that to yourself? Is this like a new?
Well, I had
form
some
of
time on my hands
Shiva
because, you
I
were
haven't
kind
heard
enough
of?
to you were kind enough to take the show prep off my hands. So I watched it a little bit. And you know what else I actually did, because I had some time on my hands since Russ insisted. Russ was a very good friend. He insisted that I not work too hard on this show. I actually recorded my top 5 albums of 1993. For the Shuffle Pod.
there
So
you
that
go.
will be premiering at 3:15 or 3:30, depending on when we get done today. I might push it back. But hey, some escapist fun for you all on youtube.com/@shufflepod. That'll be premiering after this. I think I have the raid set up where you'll be directed over there after the show. But if you're not subscribed, go check it out. youtube.com/shufflepod. Fun one today. Now we're getting into the music I started growing up with in mid-90s.
There you go.
Sure.
I dropped a short of me trying to speak Vietnamese.
Oh, yeah? Oh, well, that sounds
Yeah.
fun. Russ's channel,
yeah.
Russ on the Road NYC. There's the link. Make it happen.
I am working on the Me Live video, but that's a lot. That's like a half-hour video, man. So it's taking a little time. So I dropped a short just.
All right. Well, we'll raid that one
Well,
when you
fun
have it.
thing.
We'll do it either Tuesday or Thursday.
I should have it by Tuesday.
All right. Very cool. All right. Let's keep on trucking.
All right. So this was breaking, literally, as we were putting the show together. Iran missile attack on Qatar causes extensive damage to facility housing huge gas plant. Qatar said Wednesday that Iranian missiles caused extensive damage at Ras Laffan Industrial City, home to the largest liquefied natural gas, or LNG, export facility in the world. Qatar's foreign ministry denounced the attack as a dangerous escalation, flagrant violation of state sovereignty, and a direct threat to its national security and regional stability. Qatar reserves the right to respond in accordance with the right to self-defense guaranteed under international law, the foreign ministry said in a statement. All of the whores are leaving. They are leaving. We will not stand for this. Brent crude prices, the international benchmark, surged more than 7% to 111.23. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude was up about 4% at 100. Iran's Revolutionary Guard had threatened to attack energy facilities in Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates after Israel bombed a natural gas processing facility in Iran. Emergency teams were deployed to contain fires at Ras Laffan, according to a social media post from state-owned Qatar Energy. No casualties have been reported. Qatar's Interior Ministry later said the fire at the facility had initially been brought under control. Qatar halted LNG production on March 2nd due to Iranian drone strikes at Ras Laffan and Mesalid Industrial City. The Gulf state is the second largest LNG exporter in the world after the U.S. Qatar accounts for nearly 20% of global LNG exports, according to data from energy consulting firm Kepler. This is Donald Trump's oh boy, what did I do moment. Oh boy. You can see him increasingly flailing around as he starts to realize what he has gotten himself into here. Israel, out of anger for what has taken place in the Middle East, has violently lashed out at a major facility known as South Pars gas field in Iran. Wasn't me, guys. Wasn't me. A relatively small section of the whole has been hit. The United States knew nothing about this particular attack, and the country of Qatar was in no way, shape, or form involved with it, nor did it have any idea that it was going to happen. Unfortunately, Iran did not know this or any of the pertinent facts pertaining to the South Pars attack, and unjustifiably and unfairly attacked a portion of Qatar's LNG gas facility. I can just imagine the interns up all night trying to work through this. All right, so we want it to sound crazy or no one's going to believe it's him, but we don't want to make it too crazy, right? Right, guys? No more attacks will be made by Israel pertaining to this extremely important and valuable South Pars field unless Iran unwisely decides to attack a very innocent, in this case, Qatar. It just gets crazier. In which instance, the United States of America, with or without the help or consent of Israel, will massively blow up the entirety of the South Pars gas field at an amount of strength and power that Iran has never seen or witnessed before. We do not give one flying fuck about how many people will suffer as a result of the loss of that gas, because I personally will never starve. I do not want to authorize this level of violence and destruction. He didn't say that. I do not want to authorize this level of violence and destruction because of the long-term implications that it will have on the future of Iran. Well, you've really demonstrated a lot of feeling for the people of Iran with your actions over the last few weeks. That's for certain. But if Qatar's LNG is again attacked, I will not hesitate to do so. Thank you for your attention to this matter. It's just crazy. I mean, that is panic. That is panic. That is a guy panicking. And Kyle Seraphin points out, Joe Kemp proven correct in Trump's own post on Truth Social 24 hours later. I thought Israel's not wagging the dog. I thought Israel's not responsible. Well, according to Trump, Israel is responsible. And frankly, I believe it because of what Gen X Girl says here. What Israel did by attacking South Pars, which led the Iranians to retaliate with an attack on Qatar's adjoining North Dome field, is attack LNG transports to the EU. In addition to shipping LNG, pipelines invested by Chevron, Exxon, and Shell from Qatar's North Dome in EU through Iraq, Syria, and Turkey are at risk. This pipeline was one motivator, among others, for the takeover of Syria. Methinks Trump got a harsh call from his oil LNG donors about what the fuck they're doing, hence Trump's attempt to push the blame solely on Israel. Note Trump's comment about the extremely valuable South Pars gas fields. Yeah, I think she's right. Best damn researcher on the net, that one. And here she included a little chart showing there's the pipeline there going to Europe. And here's, you got the Chevron, Exxon, Mobil, Shell. These are guys who do not like to lose their capital investment. Here's Adam Based on messaging, it seems Israel hit Iran's energy site without Trump's permission. If true, Israel is trying to collapse the world economy for its own selfish gain. Israel hates you. It hates your family. It hates everyone you love. They would be ecstatic for all of us goys to suffer and die for them to just have one more inch of land. Cut this parasite cancer colony off. Vote all supporters out of power. Boycott the rest and those who associate with them. Now, listen, I'm sorry to tell you, he's not wrong. Like the people who are running Israel at that point, that's exactly how they look at things. He's not wrong about that. The Goys, they're an inferior. They're an inferior being to the chosen ones. Ariana Jasmine. In all of my years covering Middle East war and news, I have never seen an escalation as catastrophic as what happened today. This is really bad. And I don't think Americans are truly understanding how fast this is escalating into a regional World War III. And Arnaud Bertrand sums up what the implications are here. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but if infrastructure like this gets blown up as of this moment, it will take at least a decade to recover from this war. And the truth is that the world's energy picture is probably changed forever. This single facility produced roughly 20% of global LNG supply, and as of 2011 had taken $70 billion to build. What makes this even worse is that Iran's strike on this was retaliation after Israel attacked their South Pars gas field, which draws from the same natural gas reservoir, which is the world's largest by far, about the size of Qatar itself. Heck, on the list of the 25 largest natural gas fields, this single reservoir holds roughly 40% of their combined recoverable reserves and is nearly 6 times bigger than the second biggest field in the world. And unlike many of the others on the list, it's only at 10% depletion, meaning 90% of the gas is still there, which means that probably for many years, a huge share of the gas from the world's largest reservoir simply won't be extractable, as infrastructure on both sides, Qatar's and Iran's, has now been blown up. From a global energy supply perspective, we're deep into worst case scenario territory. Well, so why aren't they worried? Why aren't they worried? Well, here's Kevin Hassett, economic advisor to the White House, laying out why Trump and the rest of the Epstein class are not worried.
And that if it were to be extended, it wouldn't really disrupt the U.S. economy very much at all. It would hurt consumers, and we'd have to think about, if that continued, what we would have to do about that. But that's like really the last of our concerns right now, because we're very confident that this thing is going ahead of schedule.
Going ahead of schedule. Wow.
It's the last of their concerns. It's the last of their concerns. It's the peasants. It's the peasants. They would literally stand on the balcony of the White House and piss on you and tell you it's raining. These people, they don't care if you fucking die. And every now and then they say that by accident. They don't mean it. They know you shouldn't say that. But he just told you what they thought. Why aren't they more worried? Why aren't they more worried? Because rich people aren't going to suffer. They're not going to suffer. You are. They're rich. They're rich enough. The gas can go up. They can heat their house. They'll be fine. You won't be fine. They'll be fine.
But you'll be fine sooner than later because it's going ahead of schedule. So, just give it a few months. And
we'll make you whole.
Yeah, we'll make you whole again. Yeah, don't worry. We'll catch you in a few months. Yeah, don't worry.
So it's that governing style that probably led this 3-time Trump voter to give this response to a reporter.
More woman who we spoke with. If you could say something to President Trump and he was going to hear you right now, what would it be?
You are a worthless pile of
And you voted for him how many times?
3 times. That was my bad. Apparently, I'm an idiot.
Yep. Correct.
Yeah, that's the base right there. That's the
Yeah.
base. And this meme was pretty funny. You can't lose if you don't have a goal. Don Sue.
That's good.
Yeah, I mean, this is what I was saying a little bit during the super chats. Like, this is just the opening rounds, man. Like, the world is coming apart. The world is coming apart. Like, I'm pretty confident that we're moving into World War III. Like, you know, the Taiwan thing is not getting a lot of coverage right now, but it does seem like China is probably taking the opportunity to, in some way, push or force the issue while the I don't think they'll actually attack the island, but it seems like they're putting pressure on Taiwan while America is not in a position to do anything about it. You're looking at tensions erupting on multiple fronts because these guys just kicked over everything. They just turned over every agreement, every basic precept of international law. And as many have pointed out, you know, international law, as Carney pointed out in his little speech there, international law was always for the powers that enforce it. One rule for me, another for thee. It was always that way. But at this point, it's become so arbitrary that nobody is really willing to play by any of these rules or show. If you're not going to show any restraint, nobody's going to show any restraint. And if you just look at all the plates spinning right now, half of them have hit the ground already. And it seems like the other half were well on its way. Nobody's even talking about the fact that Pakistan and Afghanistan are in the middle of a war, and Pakistan has nukes already.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's nothing much to add except that it's predictably an absolute horror. This is what makes this the most catastrophic geopolitical decision, I think, of my lifetime. You know, I think I could speak for most of us when we say that, no matter how old we are. This is not Iraq. This is much, much worse, which is what we said. Didn't take experts to say that. And this is why I say it took someone who just had absolutely no choice but to follow Israel's orders to get us into this. And now we're in it. And the only way out is to just leave before it gets worse. You're not going to be able to double down. Even in Trump's statement, you said,
we won't
if they don't do this, we are going to hit them harder. You've already said that 4 times, man.
Yeah.
You've already said that 4 times now.
They're sending more troops now.
Nobody,
they're sending more troops now.
Yeah, you're not scaring anybody with that talk. We are just digging our own graves. It's just monstrous. It's monstrous, and you know, if and when we do commit troops on the ground, it's going to be just an absolute horror show. The only hope is that we pull back before it gets to that point. There's absolutely zero indication that is going to happen. That is going to happen. You know, oddly enough, for people who call Joe Kent an opportunist for, you know, doing what he did, the political opportunity right now is for Republicans to join Democrats in impeaching him and taking him out of office and trust that J.D. Vance cares enough about getting elected in 2028 and really cementing the techno-feudal dystopia that the Trump backers all really want. That he just pulls back, right? Like they have the politically opportune thing right now is to impeach and remove Donald Trump or convince him to resign for health reasons or whatever, right? That is the politically opportune thing to do here because this is just going one way, the wrong way for everybody, no matter how you slice it. From a humanitarian perspective, obviously, which is the most important to me and I think to most decent people. But even if you're looking at this from a sort of Henry Kissinger realpolitik perspective with the most sinister of motives, it's still not going to work out for you. This is
Right.
not winnable. It's not in anyone's interest to pursue this except the Israelis, and it's only in their interest so insofar as they are completely fucking psychotic. Like, it's not good for their state or their people to do this. Obviously, they are fucking insane. We are being led into war by insane people who, yes, are not just random insane people, Jonathan Greenblatt. They're organized into a state that is leading us into hell. And apparently it's anti-Semitic to say that.
Yeah, well, in the end, I do agree with Berletic and Medhurst about this. We're birds of a feather. You know,
Yeah, again,
both countries are insane.
Sure. I mean, I don't.
Insane.
Sure, but Israel is particularly insane to drag us into this. I think that's true. Like, this is not out of character necessarily, but it is. It is not. It is so clearly not in our interest.
Gaza, you know, they say with you know, once a dog gets a taste of human blood, you got to put him down. You know, Israel got quite a taste of blood with Gaza, and they want more.
Yeah, they want more. Exactly. All right, folks. Hey, if you like what we do here and you want to help us do more of it, the best way to do so is to become a member at dudissidents.com/Patreon//Substack or /locals. Members and perks include your name up in lights here on the show scroll. You also get call-in access to our weekly Q&As, which are every Sunday. Bonus content in the form of post-game live streams and film club live streams with Right Brain TV. Will be announcing a date for that probably Sunday. By then we'll have it nailed down, the next film and the next date. So we are a bit delayed on that for obvious reasons this week. So those are the perks of membership. You also get call-in access to all of our Q&As every Sunday night, as well as ad-free replays of every live stream emailed to you the day after they air. That's a lot of perks for just $5 a month. It helps us tremendously. So if you are able to support us, we give you as many benefits as we possibly can for it, because you are the backbone of the show. It helps tremendously to support the operation here. So the member links are up on the screen there, dudissidents.com/Patreon, Substack, or Locals. Your choice. Thank you all very much for your support. $1 Million Trooper says, sounds like Mark Levin and TPUSA are using the same playbook. Figures. Yep. Carmine 337, Kent said on Tucker, we realized the Iranians weren't stupid. No kidding. See, this is the kind of rah-rah shit for brains reasoning that make them lose every war they're engaged in. Yep, exactly. Exactly. That's where that good old-fashioned racism comes in, right? They can't possibly beat us, right? Joe Kent disavowed Nick Fuentes, says Matt Boyer, over his opposition to Israel, and he has tweets from a year and a half ago saying his opponent isn't pro-Israel enough. Is this a ploy to save Vance's ass to avoid the stink of this war? I don't think so, because the only person who can save Vance's ass in terms of his political future is J.D. Vance. He would have to do what Joe Kent did. Tulsi Gabbard would have to do what Joe Kent did. Now, there's no precedent for a VP resigning in protest like that, but these are unprecedented times. And he's got a decision to make. It looks like he's going down with the ship, which is his prerogative. But there is no rubbing the stink off of this. Like, this is not something where you could say, well, you know, it wasn't my idea. No. As Russell has said numerous times throughout this live stream, as I've echoed and as we've been saying for the past couple of weeks now, this is worse than Iraq. You're already seeing how it's worse than Iraq, and we are in the very early stages of it.
Iraq was nothing.
Because this is worse than Iraq, I don't think this will be as long as Iraq. I think this will be shorter, but much more painful, which is going to be much more tumultuous, to the point where, there's no, like, explaining this away. Oh, this wasn't my idea. You either put your money where your mouth is and resign in protest, as Joe Kent did, or you're not being voted into jack shit. That's what I think. Oh, George, you've got to love this shit. Chicken Little, it takes money to kill bad guys. Major Pete, it takes morons to fuck with smart guys. Major pain in the ass. Good one. Eric Rousseau, how many friends have you lost over Israel's genocide and war with Iran? I've lost several. I would have lost a lot more if I still stayed in touch with my friends, but I don't.
I mean, most of the people I would have lost over that, I already lost over Hillary.
Yeah, right, exactly.
There weren't a lot left by the time October 7th rolled around.
That's right. Democrats and Republicans really come together around child trafficking. After all, you need in order to perform double penetration. Don't ever say I didn't do anything for your entertainment, Russ. That was his joke. That was the anti-his child trafficking joke. Mark Pugliese, I don't get the friendship of the Christian fundamentalists and the Zionists. Didn't the Jews kill Jesus? Yeah, you got to ask Mike Huckabee about that. You know, that's the New Testament. That was Sam Harris and Bill Maher dissecting that, right? But yeah, no, it's an odd camaraderie. Movie idea: Russ returns with his Eastern wisdom and roams America's wasteland. Jew fu, yeah, Jew fu. Cubist, cosmonaut, welcome back, Keaton. Sorry for your loss. Thank you, appreciate that. Profanosaurus Rex, congratulations, Keaton. You've won the $10 ad read award. Thank you for your both being exceptional humans. Well, thank
here
you.
it is.
Blasphemy against you? Who the hell are you? Are you Jesus Christ, you loser?
There you go. Oh, yeah, speaking of that, we are at 2598 in the YouTube channel. 2525. And at 1262 in the like column. All righty, let's keep on keeping on here.
Okay.
How's your voice? Voice good? Russell, you're quarterbacking an entire show yourself.
Yeah,
That's,
I'm good.
It's pretty baller.
I'm good. All right. So you might remember Donald Trump, with a lot of optimism, declared on March 14th how he's getting the band back together. The United States of America has beaten and completely decimated Iran, both militarily, economically, and in every other way. But the countries of the world that receive oil through the Hormuz Strait must take care of that passage, and we will help a lot. The U.S. will also coordinate with those countries so that everything goes quickly, smoothly, and well. This should have always been a team effort, guys, and now it will be. It will bring the world together toward harmony, security, and everlasting peace. Come on, guys, come in for the big win. Yeah, but they're just not all that excited about the idea of getting their people killed for this war of choice that America and Israel have started. So here is Merz in Germany, probably the first time since World War II that they said no to a delegation of Zionists.
Yeah.
Das Konzept, wie diese Operation gelingen.
Let me take that back.
Es gibt bis heute kein
Today,
überzeugendes Konzept,
there is no
wie diese
convincing
Operation
concept how this operation could succeed. Washington did not consult us and did not explain the need for European. And ladies and gentlemen, we would have advised against taking this path as it has now been taken. That is why we have explained that as long as the war lasts, we will not be involved in ensuring free shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. For example, with military means, a plan is still missing, and a mandate of the United Nations, the European Union, or NATO is also missing. This does not explicitly mean that we will not use diplomatic means to quickly end the war. We are doing it, ladies and gentlemen, and at this point, I would like to thank the foreign minister very much for being first and one of the few. Okay, so translation, go get your fucking shine box. So that's Germany there. Here is Macron. Macron, he still has a little bit of Brigitte's jizz there in the corner of his mouth. If you look closely, you can see it there. That's so terrible. All right. Bring it back or blow it up so I can read it. I repeat here, France did not choose this war. We are not taking part, and we have a purely defensive position in protecting our citizens in support of our allies. Our objectives are clear. They have been defined since day one and have not changed. The first is to protect our citizens our diplomatic and military bases, and our interests in the region. The second objective is to stand alongside all our partners, those with whom we are linked by defense agreements, alongside whom we will often go in the fight against terrorism for security and for regional stability. And so we have honored our word, and we continue to honor it. We are loyal partners, and we have provided them with very clear support from the beginning, which is to help them protect their own population. Okay, in other words, translation, sacre bleu, which that's French for go get your fucking shine box. Here is Erdogan, who goes quite a bit further in placing some blame for this where many would argue it belongs. First Gaza, then Yemen and Lebanon, and finally the attacks targeting Iran. We all know their purpose is not just security. We all know this. Simultaneously with the attacks, the delusions of the promised land, the doomsday scenarios, the fact that all these absurdities are being brought up is certainly no coincidence. A network that has seized power, that sees itself as superior to other human beings, is dragging our region step by step into catastrophe. No lies detected there. Nobody else is going to say that, though. Not in NATO. It's the only NATO member that would say that. Maybe Sanchez. He'll get there eventually. He's almost there. From Bricks News, this is Keir Starmer after considering Trump's proposition.
While taking the necessary action to defend ourselves and our allies, we will not be drawn into the wider war.
All right. Well, our illustrious president took that kind of personal. Took it kind of personal.
The United Kingdom. Because the United Kingdom, 2 weeks ago, I said, why don't you send some ships over? And he really didn't want to do it. I said, you don't want to do it. We've been with you. You're our oldest ally. And we spend a lot of money on, NATO and all of these things to protect you. And we're protecting them. We're working with them on Ukraine. Ukraine's thousands of miles away, separated by a vast ocean. We don't have to do that. But
right. The other war you were supposed to end, but didn't.
To be honest with you, Biden got taken to the cleaners. But
Biden got taken to the cleaners.
Yeah, Biden got. Yeah.
With them in Ukraine.
You're getting us a great deal here.
They tell us that we have a mine ship around, and they don't want to do it. I think it's terrible. No, I was very surprised. I told him, we requested 2 aircraft carriers, which they had, and he didn't really want to do it. And then right after the war essentially ended, meaning they were obliterated, he said, I would like to send the aircraft carriers. I said, I don't need them after the war has ended and won. I need it before the war. So I was very upset not upset, I was not happy with the UK. I think they'll
upset
be involved.
Works.
Yeah, maybe. But they should be involved enthusiastically. We've been protecting these countries for years with NATO because NATO is us. You can ask Putin. Putin fears us. He has no fear of Europe whatsoever.
Oh my God.
I asked him, I said, look, we're a little short on ration. Can you send some of those shepherd's pies? He didn't even respond.
Yeah, right, yeah.
He didn't even respond. Just a little shepherd's pie for the troops. Not even that.
So, Richard Medhurst here points out, don't over-determine the backbone of these countries. All these European countries claiming they want no part in the U.S.-Israel war against Iran are liars and hypocrites. Every single one. Most of all, the UK is providing political, diplomatic, intelligence, and logistical support. Do not be fooled. And to his point, Starmer released a kind of Q&A thing where he more or less says exactly that.
Conflict. I made it really clear that we wouldn't join the offensive strikes that the US and Israel were carrying out on Iran. We've got about 300,000 British nationals in the Gulf region, and it's important that we protect them and our Gulf allies. So we have got the IRF in particular flying aeroplanes across the region. They're actually intercepting strikes to stop them hitting people and buildings. So that's defensive action. But we're not joining the war. We are allowing the US to use our bases, but again for defensive, collective self-defense to take out.
What does that mean?
The ability of Iran to put missiles into the air that are going or may go to attack our Gulf allies and our people in the Gulf. So not going to war, simply taking necessary defensive action to protect British lives and British interests.
Yeah, so that's a distinction without a difference. Because the United States defensive actions are offensive actions by definition. This is a war of choice that they started, and Iran's retaliatory actions are defensive measures. So what you're calling allowing defensive sorties, you're allowing offensive sorties by calling them defensive, which they are not by definition in context. Now you want to see a real mensch, you want to see a real man. The leader of Spain don't play that shit, man. This guy's not fucking around. So here he is laying down their position on this war, which is unflinching and uncompromised.
Y a las españolas.
That is why I tell the Spanish people that just as we did during the pandemic, during Putin's war in Ukraine, during the energy crisis, and during the inflation crisis, we will put all the resources of the state at the service of the public to protect them from a war, the one in Iran, which the government of Spain does not support. And I say to the right and the far right, and I say to the right and the far right, you cannot support those who are setting the world on fire and then complain about the smoke it produces. You cannot have it both ways. And the measure that would save the most lives is for them to say no to the war so that this war can end as soon as possible. As soon as possible. Yeah. That is based. You want to see even more based? Irene Moreno. You might have heard of her. I hope we hear more from her. She has basically been saying we need to withdraw from NATO. It's doing nothing for us. It actually puts us in more danger. And she actually called for Ursula von der Leyen to be tried for war crimes. Earth Hippie shared this. Guess who's not in the Epstein files? Sanchez. Isn't it funny? Everyone who seems to take a stand on this is someone who's not in the Epstein files. But here she is. Here's her speech in part.
Cuba, Iran, Líbano.
Because I had to load these in late. I didn't get a chance to tick down the volume on it. Palestine,
Cuba, Iran, Líbano, Yemen, Groenlandia.
President, at this moment, the United States and Israel are the greatest threat to the security of humanity. They are attacking the whole world, and they do it because they can. To be clear, she's a member of the European Parliament from Spain. Because no one stopped them in time. Many people have felt very proud of their words, President. Today I ask you to make no to war a reality, because if we don't, we will end up making war whether we want it or not. No to war means closing the bases of Rota and Moron, which can continue to be used for Trump's illegal wars. It is to expel the American army from our country. No to war means to reverse the rearmament that is diverting money from our schools and our hospitals for weapons and tanks by order of Donald Trump. No to war is to leave NATO, because as long as we continue to be part of that criminal alliance, we will continue to be accomplices of the United States and Israel, whether we like it or not. That woman, man. She look her up. If you don't know her already, she is pretty freaking fearless. I would love to see her be the next president of Spain. Okay, so why to go away from the based and to go to base realpolitik? Why are the Europeans taking this stand? It's not really characteristic. Well, it would be politically suicidal for any of these leaders to support this war based on the numbers.
In terms of how our allies or folks in those countries view U.S. military action in the Middle East. You see how unpopular it is this time around. Canada, Japan, the UK. And this is just part of a larger picture, Mr. Berman, a larger picture. Favorable view of the U.S. in 2025 versus 2024, of course. Donald Trump being the president in 2025, Joe Biden being the president of the United States in 2024. Look at this. Favorable view of the U.S. down 79% of 24 countries' residents asked. The bottom line is this. The folks overseas are far less likely to view the U.S. favorably, and those chickens, they're coming home to roost in this situation, as there's very little support abroad for the U.S. military action in Iran. And they have
as little support as there is in this newsroom for a member of the administration who wants to resign and call out Israel.
Right.
At a gas station in Japan, it says, sorry, out of gasoline because of Trump. Not photoshopped. Brian Allen here summing up the reactions of all the different countries that Trump went to hand in hand. French President Macron. France did not choose this Iran war. We are not taking part in it. Nobody can force us. Nobody can force us. That is not a diplomatic abstention. This is France, founding NATO member, America's oldest ally, the country that helped birth American democracy, telling Trump and Netanyahu directly, you are alone in this. France, officially out. Germany, no. Norway, no. Canada, never. Japan, officially no. Australia, officially no. UK, not our war. Switzerland, airspace closed. Trump threatened NATO with a very bad future. Macron just answered. Trump gets less than 1% of U.S. oil through the strait he mined. He asked the world to reopen it. The world keeps walking away. $21 billion spent, 14 Americans dead, oil at $102, Cuba dark, Taiwan surrounded, 0 allied warships. Yeah, that's about the size of it. That sums it up pretty well. But hey, good news, people. Good news. We don't actually need the Europeans. Trump was just testing them. He was just testing to see what they would say.
The strongest nation in the world. We have the strongest military by far in the world. We don't need them. But
no,
it's interesting. I'm almost doing it in some cases, not because we need them, but because I want to find out how they react. Because I've been saying for years that if we ever did need them, they won't be there. Not all of them, but they won't be there. I was very surprised.
All right, but you know who's really having the vapors? You know who's really having the vapors about this? Miss Lindsey. Lindsey Graham just spoke to POTUS about our European allies' unwillingness to provide assets to keep the Strait of Hormuz functioning, which benefits Europe for more than America. I have never heard him so angry in my life. I share that anger given what's at stake. The arrogance of our allies to suggest that Iran with a nuclear weapon is of little concern, and that military action to stop the Ayatollah from acquiring a nuclear bomb is our problem, not theirs, is beyond offensive. The European approach to containing the Ayatollah's nuclear ambitions have proven to be a miserable failure. The repercussions of providing little assistance to keep the Strait of Hormuz functioning are going to be wide and deep and long and hard for Europe and America.
I consider myself very forward-leaning on supporting alliances. You might say I'm a top
forward-leaning,
about
all
it.
right.
However, at a time of real testing like this,
That's what
it
you
makes
call
me
it.
second guess the value of these alliances. I am certain I am not the only senator who feels this way. Yeah.
And he's forward leaning.
Yeah. I gotta say, doing the research for this segment, if you go through Lindsey Graham's feed, it is just a fucking house of madness over there, man. Like, this guy is a maniac. This guy is a fucking rabid dog. Man.
I
He
would
is
love
nuts. This guy is nuts.
I would love for somebody to just ask Lindsey Graham impromptu, either on TV in an interview or at a town hall if he does them. What's the poorest school district in South Carolina? Just to see if he knows. Just to see if he even knows. I never heard the guy talk about South Carolina once. Like, I never heard the guy talk about his home state at all, ever.
Well, I think economically they rank 42nd.
Yeah,
42nd, but he's more.
I wonder
he's
if he
busy
knows
with
that.
Israel. Probably not. So there's a commentary account, U.S. Homeland Security News, trying to gin up a little stabbed in the back outrage. Every member of NATO refused the call to help the United States to restore freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz. All of them. All of them. I mean, you're playing to an audience of one, baby. His name's Gunther Eagleman. Or I should say an audience of 40, because that's about the number of people that run that freaking account. But who's buying that? Who's buying that? Who at this point is sitting home quaking with rage at the betrayal from NATO? It's like they're trying to pull all the old tricks that worked leading into the election. Problem is, now people have seen how you governed. And increasingly, they're figuring out it's not going to benefit them at all. Au contraire, quite the opposite. You are destroying the lives of no one more so than your own followers, because guess what? Most of those libs have a lot more financial security than the people who voted for Donald Trump. The people who are going, I mean, they're going to be hurt too. Everyone's going to be hurt. But the people who are going to be hurt the worst and the quickest are going to be exactly the people who voted for Donald Trump. They're going to be destroyed. How are they going to heat their homes this winter?
What a lady at the
How
gas
are they going to drive their car? Yeah, exactly. How are they going to survive in a country with no social safety net whatsoever? I sent you that article. Maybe we'll hopefully do it Sunday. Yeah, man. Affordable Care Act enrollees plummeted on the last sign up because they can't afford it. Because they got rid of the subsidies. How is that in the public interest? How is that in the public good? Listen, not to go off on too much of a tangent, but I've become much more sympathetic to the basic communist theory that having a broad democracy with people who have not been educated in a politics that centers workers before they're involved in a democratic process, I can see why you would do that. The reason you would do that, there's a name for it. It's called fucking America. It's called America. Like, to assume that if you just let capital run wild and let people vote, what they vote for isn't going to end up getting determined by capital is extremely naive. The idea of having, okay, well, you need to be educated in a politics and an economics that centers workers before you can participate in deciding who holds offices and who leads. I mean, if you got a better solution, you let me know, because looking at what we have, that's starting to look increasingly like maybe the only solution you could get to not have your state ultimately devoured by ghouls like the ones who run us.
Yeah, I'll tell you what we have, my friend. Afro Man. That's who we got.
I mean, or
you tell me
Afro
communism would produce Afro Man? I don't think so. Afro Man.
Well,
I'm telling you, if you thought America was on its way out you got to read that Afro Man story. So for those who don't know Afro Man, as long as we're going on tangents here, the guy had his house raided by the police because they suspected he had drugs. So they come into his house with guns and shit, and they flip everything upside down. Because he's, you know, a public figure of sorts, he has surveillance cameras all over his house. So apparently he took the surveillance footage of the cops raiding his house. And
you were going to get that story in tonight one way or another.
I'm not going to not cover
You're
Afro
going to
Man.
get that story one way
If I have to narrate it myself, I'll do it. So he makes a fucking diss track about how he fucked one of the cops' wives who raided his house, and they sued him for defamation. And he's like, listen, man, if you guys didn't fucking kick in my door and ransack my house with guns, I wouldn't have done anything. He says, I didn't retaliate by coming into your house with guns. I retaliated by using my free speech and making art, and he won his case yesterday. So if that is not a great American story, I don't know what is. So we have Afro Man. We'll always have Afro Man.
Well, yeah, no. Lenin said it's
That guy
socialism
fucking rocks.
or Lenin said it's socialism or barbarism. I think you could make the argument it's Afro Man or barbarism.
Socialism or Afro Man or barbarism. Yeah, there you go.
Well, so that's like the third choice.
Yeah, it's three choices. Yeah. But yeah, no, Afro Man, that fucking guy rocks. To think, if you remember, he ran for president. And I tweeted out, I said, imagine supporting Marianne Williamson over Afro Man. Imagine what a loser you have to be to look at Afro Man and be like, no, I'll take Marianne. Yeah.
And
How
you know
lame
what?
are
You know, and you know what I believe about Afro Man? He's not gonna go perform comedy in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, no, there's no buying Afro Man. No, that guy rules. That guy, his American flag suit with the sunglasses and the afro, and he made another track about how he's got to go to trial. No, that guy is the man. 2 heroes have risen this week. If there's good news, 2 heroes have emerged.
A hero will rise.
Joe Kent and Afro Man. That's right. All right. Let's do some Rumble Rants and Super Chats here. Cubist Cosmonaut, welcome back, Keaton. So sorry for your loss. Thank you very much. AOB, truly think Trump may have dementia at this point. He has no energy like before, and of late, he's even slurring his words. Condolences to you, Keaton. Thank you. Appreciate that. And yeah, no, I think he's definitely losing his mind a bit, for sure. By the way, so his statement to the Japanese prime minister, so he's sitting across from the Japanese prime minister, and a reporter asks, why didn't you tell U.S. allies about the war before attacking Iran? And this is what he says, with the Japanese prime minister right by his side. He says, we wanted a surprise. Who knows better about surprise than Japan? Why didn't you tell me about Pearl Harbor? Yeah.
Oh, no.
Maybe he still got it. Professor Brown note, indeed, Russ standing on the White House and pissing on the peasants. Ha! Alas, trickle-down economics. Alas, golden shower rule. Burning the world. Don't worry, we'll be fine. Did you see that human alligator James Carville is parroting your prediction about Trump resignation? Yes, I did. And we might cover that on Sunday. Yeah, no, look, it's the only thing that really makes political sense. How are they going to get Vance in there? If Trump goes 3 years and Vance is hiding away like a little... It's not doable. It's not doable. I don't think this is sustainable. He's going to have to resign. That's my opinion. And now Carville is backing me up on that. Good to have him. See, like my great minds think alike. Your prediction of what happens in America when they implement a draft and people are being sent to boot camp won't get to that point. You need Congress to implement a draft, and there's just not support for it. I don't think it'll get to that point. I don't think this war is going to last very long. That's not to be confused with an optimistic prediction. I think it's going to be a more condensed timeline than Iraq. I think it's going to be extremely bloody, but I don't think it's going to go long enough to implement a draft. And I don't think Congress will. I don't think the votes are there. I really don't. Oh, George or Kung Ju. Haha, good one. Devanes, condolences, Keaton. Thank you very much, Devanes. Appreciate that. Professor Brown note, LOL, Hermers looks related to Mr. Mackey. Yeah, he does kind of look like Mr. Mackey, the German the German chancellor there. He does. It's a good observation. He does look like guidance counselor Mackey. Z's operation isn't bad, okay? That's right. Andy Gardner, rest in peace to Mother Weiss. Not Barry, unfortunately. At least she doesn't have to see this world plunge into hell. Had a son that's a difference maker. Thank you. Well, that's very sweet, Andy. Thank you very much for that. Lindsey Graham left out, I do declare I like getting my fudge packed. Thank you, Virtuoso. Raven Lash, James Carville. Lindsey Graham would absolutely love a cayenne pepper of his ass. That's right. Yes, thank you, Raven Lash. Eric Rousseau, I love America, but I swallow for Israel. Good one. Good one. All right, are you ready to go over there? I see you loading in some stuff.
Not quite.
All right, here I will.
Getting there. Pretty close.
All right. Russell sees a revolution as the only way forward. Well, I'm here to say a conviction and certainty that a renaissance of righteousness is well underway. God is unleashing his angels through the artist's skillet Showtime. Oh, wait a minute. Where is that? Did you... Where did you... Oh, God is unleashing his angels through the artist's first skillet Showtime. Thank you, Brad, the creator. Appreciate that. Well, yeah, I mean, that's a look. I mean, a revolution of consciousness. That's a what did Martin Luther King say? Revolution of values, revolution of consciousness, same thing. There's a meatpacking strike, biggest meatpacking strike of its kind in 40 years.
Don't tell Lindsay.
That's where it's at. Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. That's what it's all about. Original Soviets of 1917 to late 1920s tried suffrage being in a workplace or unemployed union. No work, no vote. Soviets placed limits on newspapers and parties to combat U.S., UK money and pounds pouring in. Sorry, let me see who sent that. Shai Guevara. Thank you, Shai Guevara. Appreciate that. Race car. Thanks for the $20, Race car. It's very kind of you. Says, hey, Keaton, hope your family is doing okay. Thank you very much. We are doing okay, Race car. Thank you. Appreciate that. It's very kind of you. All right, you got your stuff loaded in?
Pretty much.
All right, I'll do one more.
Almost
Just let me
there.
know when you're ready. All right. Let's see here. We got said Ben says, wishing you all some lemon pound cake in your life. Ha ha. Good Afro man reference over there.
All right.
That guy's the guy. All right. You could start this segment. My cat is bothering me. He wants water. I guess I should probably give him water. All right.
They're desert animals, man. They're
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Fine.
Exactly.
You cannot give a cat water for like 2 weeks, I heard.
Oh, well, I'll let him know.
Well, my cats are dead, of course.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh, then again. Yeah. At least that's what I read. Yeah.
Keeps not working out. I don't know
Keeps
why.
not working out. All right, very well. I'll be right back.
Okay. All right. So this is from Joe Kent, who resigned this week. After much reflection, I have decided to resign from my position as director of the National Counterterrorism Center, effective today. I cannot, in good conscience, support the ongoing war in Iran. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation, and it is clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. Okay, well, Tulsi didn't respond to this directly, but she clearly was responding to this. She was subtweeting Joe Kent with this tweet. Donald Trump was overwhelmingly elected by the American people to be our president and commander-in-chief. As our commander-in-chief, he is responsible for determining what is and is not an imminent threat and whether or not to take action he deems necessary to protect the safety and security of our troops, the American people, and our country. The Office of the Director of National Intelligence is responsible for helping coordinate and integrate all intelligence to provide the President and Commander-in-Chief with the best information available to inform his decisions. After carefully reviewing all the information before him, President Trump concluded that the terrorist
Islamist regime in Iran, you like how she got that in there, posed an imminent threat, and he took action based on that conclusion. All right, so that's almost like a Kamala word salad. The president is the president, and he is the president of the United States. And the president of the United States is allowed to make decisions for the United States. And the troops under his command are American troops from the United States. There's Kamala level of sophistry here. So she kind of repeated that line with rising star John Ossoff, who really wasn't impressed by it.
Responsible for providing national intelligence to the president, correct?
Yes.
And to the heads of executive branch departments and agencies, yes?
Yes.
And to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs and senior military commanders?
Across the IC, yes.
And to the Senate and the House and relevant committees, correct?
Yes.
And the law states that the national intelligence you provide to Congress, quote, should be timely, objective, and independent of political considerations, correct?
Yes.
And you noted in your opening statement you're here fulfilling a statutory responsibility and that your testimony, quote, represents the IC's assessment of threats,
That's right.
correct? That opening statement, as submitted to the committee in advance of this hearing, stated that as a result of last summer's airstrikes, quote, Iran's nuclear enrichment program was obliterated, end quote, correct?
That's right.
And is that in fact the assessment of the intelligence community?
Yes.
So the assessment of the intelligence community is that Iran's nuclear enrichment program was obliterated by last summer's airstrikes.
Yes.
In the opening statement you submitted to the committee last night also stated, quote, there has been no effort since then to try to rebuild their enrichment capability, end quote, correct?
That's right.
And that's the assessment of the intelligence community.
Yes.
The White House stated on March 1st of this year that this war was launched and was, quote, a military campaign to eliminate the imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime, end quote. That's a statement from the White House. Quote, the imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime. Was it the assessment of the intelligence community that there was an imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime?
The intelligence community assessed that Iran maintained the intention to rebuild and to continue to grow their nuclear enrichment capability.
Was it the assessment of the intelligence community that there was a, quote, imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime, yes or no?
Senator, the only person who can determine what is and is not an imminent threat is the president.
False.
And
This
he
is the
made that
worldwide. This is the
determination.
worldwide threats hearing where you present to Congress national intelligence, timely, objective, and independent of political considerations. You've stated today that the intelligence community's assessment is that Iran's nuclear enrichment program was obliterated and that, quote, there had been no efforts since then to try to rebuild their enrichment capability. Was it the intelligence community's assessment that nevertheless, despite this obliteration, there was a, quote, imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime? Yes or no?
It is not the intelligence community's responsibility to determine what is and is not an imminent threat.
Okay.
That is up to the
Here's-
president.
That's literally your
No,
responsibility.
it is precisely,
that he receives.
it is precisely your responsibility to determine what constitutes a threat
not
to the
that,
United
what?
States. This is the worldwide threats hearing.
She's basically arguing that the president is a king, that a
Right.
president has absolute power. It's
I just work
entirely
here.
up to him.
Hey, what do you want from me?
I just work here. Exactly.
Oh, your coupon's not scanning. Look, I'm just a cashier. I don't deal with this. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's all up to the president. I mean, it's interesting the way that she's thinking ahead to possible prosecution and choosing not to lie about the intelligence assessment,
Right.
but kind of deflect it to, well, it's not for us to question the dear leader.
Right.
Hey, the dear leader saw what we had and he thought the threat was imminent. And
right.
Who are we to intervene? Who
Right,
are
she's
we
just
to
punting.
judge otherwise? Who are we? So you're going to see a lot of stuff online about how Tulsi changed or Tulsi flipped or Tulsi turned. This is what we call in the business, and I told you so, and we're going to be really petty about it, or at least I am. Okay, so I don't even know what the fuck you're talking about if you say that Tulsi changed. So Tulsi did not change. This is who she always was. We saw it. Gen X girl saw it, as I will show you. She did the same piece that I did at the same time when we weren't even following each other. And we pretty much found the same evidence separately. Like, these things were not hard to find. Neither one of us have access to the Pentagon's computers, and we were able to put this together. The question is why so many didn't. And as you probably know, I have my theories about that. So here's Tulsi, 2019, doing the anti-war thing she was fond of back in those days.
Iran on the horizon. Let's discuss it all with tonight's special guest, Hawaii Congresswoman and 2020 presidential contender, Democrat Tulsi Gabbard. Some lawmakers have been briefed. There's a push for all of you to be briefed next week. Are you confident that the administration is taking measures in line with what they actually know?
I'm looking forward to getting that briefing. I can tell you, as a soldier, I serve in the Army National Guard. I've been serving for over 16 years. I've deployed twice to the Middle East. And in Congress, I've served over 6 years on both the House Foreign Affairs and the Armed Services Committees. And I know two things very well. First is the high human cost of war. And I also know the cost on the American people. The trillions of dollars that we've spent since 9/11 alone on waging these wasteful regime change wars, how those wars have undermined our national security, and how they have strengthened terrorist groups like ISIS and Al-Qaeda. As a soldier, I understand the need for us to be prepared, and I understand the need for us to keep the American people safe. So when we talk about a potential war with Iran, which is looking like we are walking very dangerously down that path, what I think is important for the American people to know is that a war with Iran would make the war in Iraq look like a cakewalk. The devastation and the cost would be far greater than anything we've ever experienced before.
So the president said today, when he was asked point blank, are we heading to war with Iran? He says, I hope not.
What's concerning to me is that while Trump and others in his administration are saying that they don't want to go to war with Iran, when in fact the actions that the administration has been taking are telling us another story, that it's actually pushing us closer and closer to the prospect of a war with Iran. This is what I'm very concerned about, because I know that that cost on our troops, on the American people, on civilians across the Middle East and the region, creating more refugees, creating more instability in Europe. I mean, the cost would be very great.
Yeah. Being a handmaiden to this crew has definitely aged her quite rapidly over the last few years. So hey, man, I know Tucker, we got a lot of good press this week, including from us. But I think it's worth asking some questions at this point about people who certainly are not dumber than we are. I don't think I'm smarter than Tucker Carlson. He's a very smart guy. I don't know, man. I was able to do research on Tulsi's history as a young global leader and how she ran a PSYOP unit. Tucker couldn't do that. I don't know.
On which side by the reaction of Tulsi Gabbard. If there are Republican senators who are voting against Tulsi Gabbard's confirmation, then you either in the Intel Committee or in the Open Senate, you will know that person is not only my enemy as someone who voted for change, for openness, for transparency, for an end to corruption, for a draining of the swamp. You know that person is an enemy of the United States, period. It's really that simple.
Okay, so I don't know, man. There's a lot of weird stuff about Tucker. We showed how he claimed he didn't know his father was in the CIA. And then in another place, he talked about how he knew that his father was in the CIA. The whole Venezuela thing, where he went beaming from ear to ear to the White House. It's weird, man. I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. This is really weird. I would expect better from Jeffrey Sachs. But here he is. Right around the same
want to
time.
jinx anything. She's probably the most important appointment of the Trump administration.
It does seem that way.
She is
Important,
incredibly intelligent, incredibly honest, incredibly committed to U.S. security, and would do a superb job. So that's why she's being opposed, because the forces that are worse than mediocre, that are right now on top of a $1.5 trillion a year machine, that have been running disastrous wars, that have been bringing us closer and closer to doom, don't want any accountability. And what Tulsi Gabbard would represent is competence, honesty, forthrightness, and not having been a party to all these failures.
All right. So people who have been around for a little while, not that long, if you've been around for a year, you might remember I did a whole piece on this right at this time. This was like all beginning of February when she was about to go into her hearings last year. And I felt like I was taking crazy pills, because you're describing Tulsi Gabbard as somebody who's moral and consistent and forthright. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, it's not like she changed. She had already been, as I demonstrated in that segment, on every side of every issue. She called Trump Saudi Arabia's bitch. Then she's out there hanging out with the Saudi head of their sovereign wealth fund. She had already demonstrated that she was willing to take one position if it was convenient for her and take a completely opposite position. Jeffrey Sachs, he's spoken out so much against the Israeli state and Zionism. Tulsi was running around talking about how the students were being seduced by people who want to create a caliphate. Why the fuck would you describe her like that? I don't know. But very much like Charlie Kirk, it's worth asking the question, right? Isn't it a little weird that a guy with Jeffrey Sachs's knowledge would have given that kind of an endorsement to somebody who was clearly a grifter, clearly probably a deep state op herself when you look at her service record and what parts of the service she worked in? It's very strange. So like I said, I did a piece. We weren't following each other. I mean, I'm assuming she wasn't following me. I wasn't following Gen X Girl a year ago. She did basically the same piece I did, although better research than the one that I did, as you'd expect from Gen X Girl. Meet the new DNI, Tulsi Gabbard. Iran war hawk, staunch Zionist, leader Intel PSYOP community, trained, she taught students psychological operations. She lectured students on how to run PSYOPs. Trained Army PSYWAR, member Council on Foreign Relations, Commander 440th Brigade of Army Civil Affairs and Psychological Operations Command. All that shit was publicly available at that time, at the time that Tucker and Jeffrey Sachs are saying this. This I couldn't wrap my head around. She was a young global leader. The same exact people who are like, oh yeah, Tulsi's going to take on the deep state are the people who will absolutely go ballistic if anyone has shaken hands with anyone from the WEF. Here she is, 2015. I'm honored to be selected as 2015 Young Global Leader Voices representing Hawaii among leaders around the world. Later on, she tried to claim she didn't know what the WEF was. Yeah, nice try. And yeah, I had this in my exhibits too. Tulsi Gabbard is the commander of the 440th Brigade at the Army Civil Affairs and Psychological Operations Command. While in her announcement, she strategically left out the PSYOP part. She is very much embedded and a leader in the intelligence and PSYOP community. She literally was a commander of a PSYOP unit, I believe in Southeast Asia, actually. And I didn't include the exhibit, but she shows, like, she gave lectures on how to run PSYOPs. Literally, She's an expert in psychological operations. Tulsi is also a longtime member of the Council on Foreign Relations, which is a shadow org funded by Wall Street that pulls the levers of power in D.C. towards Zionist and globalist agenda. CFR appoints leaders such as Henry Kissinger, George H. Bush Sr., and Tulsi Gabbard. Quite illustrious company there. Anti-war. For an anti-war advocate, Gabbard has ties with some of the staunchest pro-war and pro-Israel actors. Christians United for Israel, Zionist megadonor Miriam Adelson, Zionist clown Rabbi Shmuley Boteach, speaking at an event with Netanyahu, Ted Cruz, and Huckabee. There it is. Look at her, man. Miriam Adelson, Shmuley. She didn't change. That's what I could not understand, man. There were so many people who should have known better who were gassing her up. Look at her, man. I mean, that's a more recent picture of her with the living Wehrmacht propaganda poster that is Rabbi Shmuley. Here she is on Fox. It's not like you could say this stuff was not out there at the time and then she changed. This was her on Fox around at the time that student protests really at a fever pitch at Columbia, talking about how they're being seduced by Islamists.
Caliphate around the world, and that's the short-term and long-term threat that these groups pose to freedom-loving people and civilization.
So the real goal of these protesters at college campuses all over the country is not what they claim it is, which is to protest the Israeli war in Gaza. Instead, it's to establish Sharia law in the United States. There are large contingents of Jewish students, including Jewish Voices for Peace and all kinds of Jewish organizations that have been created in the wake of October 7th to oppose the war in Gaza, that are part of these protests. The idea that they are working for Sharia law in the United States, that that's what these protests are really about, is not just such an obvious, wild exaggeration and delusion, but it's a very dangerous one, because obviously if you convince the American public that we once again have some kind of invasion of Islamist terrorists or Islamic radicals, that all the things that they acquiesce to as part of the war on terror will be things that they are willing yet again to embrace. And that's exactly what that kind of rhetoric is designed to do.
Glenn got it. He understood what was going on there. Now, this is a case of somebody who was on the right side, who's smarter than us. This is the common denominator between the people who were wrong about this and the people who were right about this. They were all smarter than us, but only one of them that we're featuring in this segment got it right, and that was Glenn Greenwald. So here you might recognize these young whippersnappers from a year ago making the case that Tulsi Gabbard is a fucking op. And wealth fund. Perhaps there was a whispered argument against genocide, but during the parts picked up by the cameras, everyone seemed to be having a good time. Okay. So you got somebody with enough knowledge of these issues to have been calling out Trump rightly for genocide in Yemen, who now is hanging out no problem with the Saudi Arabia head of the Sovereign Wealth Fund, yucking it up. So what you're talking about is either a total scumbag, or you're talking about somebody who takes her orders from somebody and does what she's told. Either way, the idea of celebrating Tulsi Gabbard, who doesn't seem to have a core conviction in her body, makes me feel like I'm taking crazy pills. I do not understand anyone who takes her seriously on any level. I don't understand people who think Trump is going to take down the deep state. Oh, you feel some people are upset about Trump? Sure, man. When one house of an aristocracy loses power to another house of the aristocracy, they're upset about it. Of course, they want to control things, right? But it doesn't mean that the deep state lost. If you really look at all this, if you look at who is Trump appointing, he appoints Mike Huckabee. The Israelis are looking at Mike Huckabee like, this guy's kind of fucked up, man. This guy's got a couple of screws loose. That guy's more Zionist than Netanyahu. Look at who he's picking. Look at who he's surrounding himself with. Are these people saying we need to get out of Ukraine? They're not saying that. Are they saying we need to stop giving all this support to Israel? They're not saying that. How is this a challenge to the deep state? Why, based on Tulsi Gabbard's record, would you think she's anything other than one of the most unscrupulous politicians alive or a deep state op? And again, a lot of the people who are very concerned with Gabbard going in and taking down the deep state are the same exact people that if you attach this fact pattern to, say, a Democrat, would immediately say they're an op. Well, so there you go. Was it
you really weren't
to see? What? What?
Said you really weren't kidding. Said you were going to be petty about it. You were joking.
No, I was not. So yeah, man. It is very, very strange that, again, man, you know, I don't think we're smarter than Tucker Carlson. I certainly don't think I'm smarter than Jeffrey Sachs. Why? Like, why? All that was out there. All that was out there. Like, it's not like all this came out after she got confirmed. Why the fuck was anyone supporting her? Does that mean, look, I personally know people who fell for the Tulsi Gabbard dog and pony show that I know sincerely fell for it. And maybe that's more fruitful to interrogate. Like, you know, that's a lesson, man. That's a lesson. Like, I think it's very easy for people to get caught up in elections. There's a wave of energy around an election and people get caught up in the moment and they get caught up in the honeymoon. I think in the particular case of this administration, partly because they were bringing in kind of outsiders and castaways, I think you also had certain people who started to glom onto the administration in the hopes that they'd be brought into the tent. I think there was some of that going on, and gassing up Tulsi was part of that for some people. But when you look at somebody like Tucker Carlson or Jeffrey Sachs, who is just ignoring the fact that, you know, both of them had been speaking out against Zionism, and Tulsi was explicitly, pretty rabidly Zionist. Why are you talking about how she's going to go take on the deep state, man? She called Trump Saudi Arabia's bitch. Like, why did you not notice that she's probably an op? Like, why would you say anyone who's against Tulsi Gabbard is your enemy? I don't know. I mean, I honestly don't know. Especially with Jeffrey Sachs, I really don't know. Like I said, there's some weird stuff with Tucker. There is. We've covered it. But I don't get it, man. I guess it could just be innocently wrong, but with Gabbard, again, I was able to just find all this stuff online, as was Gen X Girl. It's pretty inexcusable if you have that kind of platform and people give you that much respect to not have even a passing knowledge of Tulsi Gabbard's record, because even a passing knowledge of it would tell you that everything they said about her was absolutely fucking absurd. It should be no surprise to anyone that we're here now with her.
Well, I certainly expected her to just do what she did in this hearing, which is to just, basically, I just work here. I think for a lot of people, especially Tucker, it was vibes. A lot of it was just vibes, right? I mean, they, you know, like the Democrats became the censorious warmongering squares. They represented NATO and the old guard. And then the, MAGA, they were the maverick coalition, and Tulsi sort of glommed on to that through her anti-woke signal. And don't forget, there's a very like religious undertone to all of this, right? I mean, the whole conflict is the hedonistic, godless lizard people versus the salt of the earth, God-fearing traditional Americans who eat steak and have a bunch of kids, right? I mean, like that was the conflict. And, Tucker really bit for that and, cashed in on that quite a bit, if we're being honest here. I mean, that whole swing state tour he did in the fall of 2024 was just a clown show. I mean, he's doing great work now, and I'm grateful for it. Obviously, he's the most important anti-war voice, so I don't want to like tear the guy down. But you look at that swing state tour.
That vampire thing we have from Roseanne Barr, that was the Tucker tour, wasn't it?
Yeah, he's got Roseanne Barr on the stage. He's got Alex
talking
Jones
about vampires,
ranted about UFOs. He's got Jack Posobiec up there. No, people really felt the vibes, and once you get sucked into that vibosphere, it becomes compounding, because now there's every incentive to sort of double and triple down on the idea that the Trump campaign really was the fight for the soul of America, for the Republic, the rescue of the Republic. I mean, and that was September. That was right around the time of Tucker's sort of swing state tour. And your speech at Rage Against War made essentially this point, which is that, as much as the Democrats are indefensible and not worthy of support, you also cannot delude yourself into thinking that Donald Trump represents any great hope for this country or humanity more broadly. I mean, I was actually expecting more fireworks at the Tulsi hearing, because I was expecting her to perhaps dig in a little more. But you're right, she lawyered it. Right. She really lawyered it to the point where there was almost not much they can do except give her a chance to answer. And she basically declined. And Ossoff's line of questioning there really reflects
Ask the boss.
Yeah. Ask the boss. Ask the boss. And slight tangent. I think people are really sleeping on John Ossoff for 2028. I think, once he wins this Senate race by 5 points or more in a crucial swing state like Georgia, I think he's going to catapult to the front of the pack pretty quickly. I think he'll be an instant B tier candidate, and then their A tier candidates are very weak. So I think I'm not a betting man, and even if I was a betting man, I wouldn't bet on politics because I cover it, so it would be a conflict of interest. But if I was, I'd probably take a little bet on Ossoff, since you can get really good odds for him now. That is not to be construed as gambling advice, because I'm not doing it myself, so I'm not advising anybody on anything. But he seems to be a dark horse contender at this point. I mean, Tulsi is just an absolute disgrace.
I mean, the odds on predict it must be great right now.
Yeah. Tulsi is an absolute disgrace. No question about that. All right. Let's take some super chats and then let's get out of here. Original Soviets. Oh, no, sorry. Got that one already. Oh, sorry. What did I do? Did I forget to clear these out? Okay, here we go. Condolences, Keaton, says Pete Sweet. Thank you, Pete Sweet. Appreciate that very much. Thank you. Professor Brown, no. Love you guys. Quoting Sammy. Thank you, Professor Brown. Note, Vienticus Prime. You don't actually love us. You're quoting Sammy. Keaton, if your cat is trans, do you use its live name or its dead name? Good one. Stoop sign. Cats go nuts without that water. My girl pushed her bowl halfway across the room towards me because I forgot to refill her water for more than a day. Yeah, they can. Sending my condolences, Keaton. Take care. Thank you, Romer Oscar. Appreciate that very much. The Starmer tweet is fake. Which Starmer tweet is fake? The big one? That big one had like 20.
Oh, is that?
Is it?
Really?
You got to look into that, and I'll see if we got to edit it. But it said it had 22 million views. If it had that many billion views, you would think it would be a real tweet, no? If it wasn't,
you would think
noted.
that.
Yeah,
I saw that shit everywhere. I didn't see one community note on it.
It said 22 million views. That's a lot of views for a fake tweet. I'm assuming we're talking about the same one. I don't know, but we'll take a look at it. Burning the world.
I'm assuming he's talking about the NATO one.
Okay. Yeah, I thought that one had like 22 million views. That seems like a lot for a fake tweet without any notes on it. Was Kent's job to investigate possible terror or false flag attacks in America? Maybe he knows something and wanted no part of it. That's possible. It's always possible. But no, I think what he said was true on its face. Also, Europeans will like any excuse Trump will give them for restarting the relationship with Russia. If they back away from this war, they may have their tankers passing. Interesting, oh George. Thank you for that. Dark Matter Zombies, thanks for the $100. Wow, let's have a cowbell for Dark Matter Zombies. Landrew, thank you, Landrew. Condolences to you and yours, Keaton. We are all Palestinian now. Free Palestine, and we will all be free. Thank you, Landrew. Appreciate that very much. That is very kind of you. Thank you, my friend. Checkpoint Charlie says, I was done with Tulsi when she endorsed Biden 2020. Good one. Thank you, Checkpoint Charlie.
Landrew is dead.
Thank you. Got a big one here. A very kind donation. Thank you very much, Bill Hicks. $200. Wow. Thank you, Bill. Hicks was right. Appreciate that very much. Deepest condolences, Keaton. Our dissidents community supports you. Well, thank you. That's very kind of you. Appreciate the sentiment. And that's a very kind donation. Thank you very much for that, my friend. Peter Ive. Russell, you obviously hadn't had Tulsi hold my hand while she sincerely tells me what I want to hear. Plus hot on a Zach Bird, treat yourself to some healing music, Keaton. I recommend the latest by Haley Hydrix, but get whatever you want. So sorry for your loss, man. Stay cool. Thank you, Zach Bird. Appreciate that very much. Thank you. Okay, I got a few more here. Let's see. We're going to copy this over. Okay. Username. My condolences on your loss, Keaton. I'm glad that you're still open to criticism as a grieving kiddo. Thank you, username. Appreciate that. Love you, Keaton. You're a good man. Russ, you keep looking better the longer you stay over there. Yeah. Yeah. Russ is reverse aging over there.
A lot of people have told me that.
Yo, Greenwald, I don't want to, I know he can, he gave me, he playfully ribbed me on this when I talked about how young I was compared to him. But yo, man, that was 2 years ago. He looked like 20 years young. He looked like a kid in the video that you just played. That was what, 2024? Guy looked like he was 30 years old in that video. Guy looked so young. Crazy. Sorry in advance, Glenn, if you see this. Anything's possible, let's see here. Andy Gardner, member 2 months. Thank you for the $5. I think Trump is being brainwashed or drugged by Mossad. My opinion, he's making no sense, slurring for sure. Think of the secret stuff they have now. Maybe Susie Wiles is like the Sixth Sense mother,
Maybe. Didn't she just get diagnosed with breast cancer? That one?
Yeah, that's terrible. Mikey B 400. My condolences.
Maybe that's where she was keeping the mind control drugs.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. My condolences, Keaton. Thank you, Mikey. Appreciate that very much, my friend. Thank you. All right, everybody. Well, hey, thank you all very much for being here. Got a couple more that I will copy over. Appreciate all the well wishes. Thank you to Russell for doing the show today. How about a round of applause for Russ Dobular, prepping 4 hours worth of material for everybody. Russell was a very good friend. I appreciate it very much, even though we did not get to cover Afro Man, even though we snubbed Afro Man. But hey, life during wartime, right? There's only so much you could do.
Dude, you're doing that shit for 5 weeks. And to make it clear, I have begged this guy to take a vacation. He won't do it.
That's right.
He just won't do it.
No,
yeah, fair's fair, man. He's covering the show for 5 weeks. I would. But he will not. This guy won't take a week off.
No.
The only time you took off was when you had the newborn, and
when my baby was born.
A week,
2 weeks. I was off 2 weeks for that.
Did you take two?
Yeah,
took two.
We took two. We took two for that. Well, when Russ is gone, it's going to be all Afro Man all the time. It's going to be all every show is just going to be all Afro Man.
It's going to be Afro Man and Oasis chord progressions.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Exactly. Mammoth says, Keaton, it's always 3:30 in your location. What's with the 33? See, you got it. No, I did that to scare Kurt Metzger. I set it to 3:30 to give Kurt Metzger nightmares. I'm running a psyop on Kurt Metzger. That's the goal of having that as 3:30. Chase the Mind Sculptor, my condolences for your loss, Keaton. I just lost my grandmother last month right before my birthday. Right with you, brother. Take care. Well, condolences to you, my friend, and thank you for the well wishes. Appreciate it very much. All right, everybody. Well, hey, this is going to redirect you, YouTube viewers, to the Shuffle Pod for my best of 1993 countdown. So smash the subscribe button while you're over there. That would be awesome. Nice crowd in here today. Thank you all for being here. Thanks to the mods for keeping the peace in the chat, the YouTubers, the Rumblers. Thanks to Katie Halper for joining us. And we wish her, of course, safest of travels to Cuba on a very noble mission. Appreciate you all being here. We will see you back here Sunday night at 7 p.m. Until then, thanks everybody for being here. Be safe and be well.
Courage!
Please clap.